Chapter 866. The Zhang family's land in Macau was located in the northern section of Shengluo Avenue. There were many residential areas here, but they were all high-end residential areas. Two of the villa districts even sandwiched the Zhang family's land in the middle. The Vermilion Gate and the gray walls of the high school, the entire Zhang family occupied an area of more than 10 acres. It could be considered as a tall mansion with an extraordinary grandeur. Goodbye. At the Zhang family's gate, Tang Yunda's expression was a bit unsightly. He just nodded at the people outside to see them off before he hurriedly got into the car and signaled the driver to drive. After a while, the two artists drove away. At this moment, two more figures appeared at the entrance of the Zhang clan. An old man and a young man, both tall and straight like pine trees. One of them was a young man with black shoulder-length hair, who was wearing a black training suit. He looked at the two cars that were driving away with a cold glint in his eyes. He disdainfully said, "The Tang family has been in a coma for so many years, yet you still dare to come to our Zhang family and act so arrogantly? You really don't know the meaning of death. If not for the Tang family behind him, I would have killed him today." With his hands behind his back, the old man shook his head and said, "Jian, this Tang Yunda is indeed a waste. He only relies on the protection of the Tang family. After all, the Tang family is one of the top families in the capital. They are very powerful. Even our Zhang family can't compare to the Tang family. There's also that son of his. Although he's not in politics, he's able to create the magnificent Tang Corporation at such a young age. He's not to be underestimated." Zhang Jian sneered, "Grandpa, you don't need to boost others' momentum and belittle our own. Our Zhang family has developed to this point and has a solid foundation. We also have two reliable allies. So what if the Tang family is a top family in the imperial capital? If he angers me, I'll slaughter all of the Tang family's tentacles. And that son of his, with just a small company, did he really think he was so great? I'm going to have a good understanding of this magnificent Tang Corporation after I get some free time. The chicken that lays the golden eggs must be obtained by myself. Jian, you better not act rashly." The old man narrowed his eyes and silently shook his head before continuing, "Even if our Zhang family isn't afraid of the Tang family, we can't be the first bird to stand out now. The fact that the Tang family was able to annihilate the Yao family meant that they had hidden a lot of armed forces. Only by knowing the enemy and yourself could one emerge victorious in every battle. Otherwise, it will bring danger to our Zhang family." Zhang Jian said, "Grandpa, I know what to do." The old man nodded and said, "Go see Kuta tonight and tell his men to seize the time to act. We must take down those two ports as soon as possible so that it will be more convenient for goods to enter and leave in the future." "All right." Macau, Tungsha District, Island Palace Garden. Inside Villa A058. As soon as Tang Yunda entered the villa, he saw his brother, Chen Anhu, coming out to welcome him. His expression was a bit unsightly as he shook his head and said, "The other party was very polite on the surface, but I didn't see the main character at all. The Zhang family sent out an unimportant character to entertain me. They're really good at playing Tai Chi." Chen Anhu fell into silence for a moment before he bitterly smiled and said, "If it really doesn't work out, then we'll give those two ports to the Zhang family. Although we will suffer great losses, it is still better than being uprooted by the Zhang family." "We won't be uprooted," sneered Tang Yunda. "We don't even need to give them those two ports. Just wait and see. My son happens to be in Macau. I'll ask him for his opinion." Chen Anhu asked, "By the way, why did Tan Xiu come to Macau? Also, what's the origin of the person he asked me to help him find?" "He's looking for the zodiac jade carvings. Someone was too greedy and demanded an exorbitant price, so he personally brought his men to Macau," said Tang Yunda. "The person he asked you to help him find is the one who owns the zodiac jade carvings." "The zodiac jade carvings?" Chen Anhu was surprised. "Is it the zodiac jade carvings that the Grand Fortune jewelry has been looking for recently?" "Anhu, we're brothers who have been through life and death together, so I don't need to hide it from you," said Tang Yunda smilingly. The Grand Fortune jewelry is actually my son's business. He's the one who is looking for the zodiac jade carvings. I don't know his real purpose in looking for the zodiac jade carvings, but he's always been reliable, so the zodiac jade carvings should be of great use to him. The Grand Fortune jewelry turns out to be Tan Xiu's. Qin Anhu was shocked. How is that possible? You must know that the Grand Fortune jewelry has been operating in Hong Kong for decades and has been developing rapidly in recent years. Even if its total assets haven't reached 10 billion yuan, it should be close to it, no? How old is your son? This. Anhu, there are a lot of things you don't know, said Tang Yunda with a forced smile. In fact, there are a lot of things I don't know about him. But there's one thing I'm afraid you'll know soon. What is it? Asked Qin Anhu curiously. Tang Yunda smiled mysteriously and said, just wait. You'll know it when the time comes. 10 minutes later. A middle-aged man outside strode into the hall on the first floor. He looked at Qin Anhu and said, Boss, there's a guest. He claims to be Tan Xiu, Mr. Tang's son. Qin Anhu immediately got up and smilingly said, let's go and welcome him. Tang Yunda waved his hand and said, Anhu, just tell someone to bring him in. We don't need to go out and greet him personally. Ugh. Qin Anhu thought for a while and immediately smiled. Alright, then let Tan Xiu come in. After a while, Tan Xiu entered the room with Moo. He saw his father sitting on the sofa and Qin Anhu, whom he didn't know. He lightly smiled and said, Dad, this is the Uncle Qin you often mentioned, right? Qin Anhu observed Tan Xiu. He got up and smilingly said, what a spirited young man. You're worthy to be Brother Yunda's son. You're a talented young man. I'm Qin Anhu, your dad's sworn brother. Hello, Uncle Qin, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Ever since my dad woke up from his coma, he often talked about you. I'm fortunate to meet you today. You're the real ambitious and ruthless man. Thanks to Uncle Chen's help in finding the Dark Shaman clan. It's just a trivial matter. Qin Anhu waved his hand. After exchanging pleasantries. After they sat down, Tan Xiu finally figured out the cause of the matter. He had never heard of the Zhang family in Macau, but he knew a bit about the Zhao family in the imperial capital. If it weren't for him, the Tang family would be slightly inferior to the Zhao family in the imperial capital. You mean, the leader this time is Kudu from Tea Country? That's right. Qin Anhu nodded and said, it's indeed Kudu from Tea Country. However, I heard that Kudu isn't the real leader. There's a real big shot behind him. I've contacted my friends in Tea Country, but I can't find out who's the big tree behind Kudu. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes. He took out his mobile and dialed a cell number. After the call was connected, he said, I'm afraid I need your help with something. I'll be waiting for you in Tangsha District's Island Palace Garden. All right. He hung up the phone. Tan Xiu then looked at Qin Anhu and his father, Tang Yunda, and smilingly said, it's quite a coincidence that the target I'm looking for this time is someone from Tea Country. Moreover, he seems to have a deep background there. Maybe he can give us some answers. An hour later. The white-haired youth, Singluan, arrived with a petite woman and 5 black-robed old men. Tan Xiu briefly introduced them. After everyone sat down, he asked, do you know a man named Kudu from Tea Country? Kudu? Which Kudu? Singluan raised his brows and asked in surprise. We can't find out his specific identity, but he has a deep connection with the Zhang family in Macau, said Tan Xiu. And he's in Macau now. That's right, Uncle Anhu has his photo here. Take a look. Qin Anhu immediately took out his mobile phone and showed Kudu's photo to Singluan. Singluan glanced at it and immediately wore a strange expression. Then, he said, I know him and I know him very well. I even know him very well. He's a member of my Dark Shaman clan with a different surname. He's also my father's right-hand man. So, Your dark shaman clan is also involved in colluding with the Zhang family in Macau to plot against us. Tan Xiu sneered. I really don't know about it, Mr. Tang. Singluan quickly waved his hand. Kutu is my father's confidant, and he usually treats me very well. What happened in Macau has nothing to do with me. Suddenly, this is an opportunity, young master, said the petite woman beside him in a low voice. Singluan stared blankly and his expression slightly changed. He shot a deep look at the petite woman and then turned to Tan Xiu and said, Mr. Tang, I wonder if you're willing to buy Kuta's life for $1 billion. Are you trying to kill him with a borrowed knife? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. I think it's a fair deal, said Singluan. Of course, I'm willing to pay you a fortune if you can help me become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he asked with a smile, how much fortune? I don't have any money, said Singluan. I'm afraid I can't even take out $100 million. But I have treasures. My Dark Shaman clan's treasury has a lot of treasures. As long as you can help me become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, I'm willing to pay you 100 sorcerer's stones. What exactly is this sorcerer's stone? Asked Tan Xiu, confused. Singluan turned his hand and took out a coal-like ore. He handed it to Tan Xiu and said, this is a sorcerer's stone. It's the most needed thing for the Dark Shaman clansmen who are proficient in witchcraft. Each sorcerer's stone contains a lot of sorcery power. As long as you know the method, you can absorb the sorcery power inside for your own use. The moment Tan Xiu took the sorcerer's stone, he could clearly feel the power contained inside. His eyes instantly lit up and his heart was filled with ecstasy. Sorcerer's stone, my ass. This is a demon stone. Tan Xiu tightly gripped the demon stone. It took him a few minutes to absorb less than 1,000th of the magic power inside. His eyes then shifted to Singluan and said, I have a condition. I'm willing to make a deal with you if you can agree to it. What condition? Asked Singluan hurriedly. I need demon stones, which are the sorcerer's stones you mentioned, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. I'll buy them from you every year from now on. The more the better. Chapter 867. Singluan never dreamed that Tan Xiu would put forward such a condition. Sorcerer's Stone was the most important development issue for the Dark Shaman clan. Every member of the clan who wanted to become a powerhouse must consume a lot of Sorcerer's Stone every year. Not to mention, the Sorcerer's Stone mine under their control had been severely depleted after hundreds of years of mining. The amount of Sorcerer's Stone mined each year was also strictly regulated by the clan's ancestral rule. Only 2,000 Sorcerer's Stones could be mined each year. As the second young master of the Dark Shaman clan, Singluan could only get 50 Sorcerer's Stones every year. Mr. Tang, the Dark Shaman clan does control the Sorcerer's Stone mine, but the number of Sorcerer's Stones we collect each year is not much. Besides, our clansmen need to cultivate and absorb the sorcery power inside. I'm afraid we can't sell you a lot, said Singluan with a bitter expression. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and said, we can negotiate and set a number. How about this? I won't make things difficult for you. I'll use other resources to exchange with you as long as your clan sells me 1,000 Sorcerer's Stones every year. 1,000? That's impossible. Mr. Tang, the total number of Sorcerer's Stones mined by our clan every year is less than that. It's absolutely impossible for you to ask for 1,000 pieces, said Singluan resolutely. Then, how much do you think is appropriate? Tan Xiu frowned. 100 pieces. Singluan hesitated for a moment and said, that's 100 pieces. That's the upper limit our clan can afford. After all, our clansmen still need to cultivate. Our clan will soon fall without Sorcerer's Stone. Even if I want to sit on the patriarch seat as soon as possible, I can't cut off the hope of our clan. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and said, 50 pills a year in exchange for 730 Sorcerer's Stones. That's the bottom line I can afford. Let's have a happy cooperation if you're willing to trade. But if you don't agree, just forget it. Pills? What's that? Singluan looked at Tan Xiao with a puzzled expression. At this moment, the eyes of the 5 black-robed old men standing behind Singluan instantly lit up. One of them asked in a deep voice, "Mr. Tang, can you tell us what effect this pill has?" Tan Xiao said, "Spirit amassing pill. Every cultivator who consumed the essence-gathering pill would receive many benefits. The exact benefits varied from person to person. You can give it a try." The black-robed old man took a step forward and respectfully said, "Young master, I want to give it a try." Singluan knitted his brows and asked, "What are you going to try? Don't tell me that pill is a miracle pill." Tan Xiao flicked a pill into the black-robed old man's hand and indifferently said, "Take this pill and cultivate here. I'll give you 4 hours. After 4 hours, no matter how much medicinal power you've absorbed, you must stop and talk about the effects." "All right." When the black-robed old man smelled the intoxicating fragrance, he immediately felt his mind shake and became exceptionally clear. After nodding to Singluan, he sat cross-legged on the ground and directly swallowed the pill. Chen Anhu, who had been quietly watching the conversation between Tan Xiao and Singluan, finally couldn't help but approach Tang Yunda and ask in a low voice, "What are they doing, Brother Yunda? What sorcerer evil stone? What medicinal pill? Also, they're talking about cultivators. Why are they confusing me?" "Xiao is a cultivator," said Tang Yunda in a low voice. "Many of his men are also cultivators." "What?" Chen Anhu's voice suddenly raised a few octaves, attracting the attention of the others in the room. "It's nothing." Chen Anhu hurriedly waved his hand when he felt Tang Yunda pulling him. He returned to Tang Yunda's side and excitedly asked, "You're not lying to me, are you, Brother Yunda? Your son is actually a cultivator. How is that possible?" "A cultivator? That's a celestial being. We've risked our lives many times in the past, yet we've only met a cultivator once." "There's no deceit between us brothers," said Tang Yunda in a low voice. "Xiao is really a cultivator, and a very powerful one at that. You should have heard of that Amur tiger, right? He was killed by Xiao because he helped the Yao family in the imperial capital to deal with our Tang family. However, you must keep this matter to yourself. You can't tell anyone about it." "Don't worry." Chen Anhu firmly nodded and guaranteed. "I won't say anything even if someone puts a knife to my neck." "That's amazing. It's really amazing. That Amur tiger is famous all over the country. Who doesn't know how powerful and terrifying he is? I didn't expect that he would be killed by my nephew. No wonder you said that you're looking for external help in Macau. So that's how it is." "Low-key," said Tang Yunda with a chuckle. Yes. Chen Anhu rubbed his hands and looked at Tan Xiao with fiery eyes. Time fleeted by. Half an hour later, the black-robed old man, who was sitting cross-legged and desperately absorbing the medicinal efficacy of the pill, suddenly burst out with a surging aura. A layer of black mist visible to the naked eye shrouded him in an instant. He broke through. The other 4 black-robed old men looked incredulous with intense envy in their eyes. They never imagined that the medicinal efficacy of the spirit-amassing pill would be so strong. It had only been half an hour, yet his second brother broke through. They all knew that their second brother had just broken through to his previous realm a year ago. Singluan and the petite woman were also shocked. They also knew about the black-robed old man's situation. 3.5 hours later. The black-robed old man's complexion turned red and he crazily coughed up a mouthful of blood. An even more surging aura erupted from his body again. A large amount of black mist spread out again. If it wasn't for Tan Xiao waving his hand to block it, the entire room would have been shrouded by the black mist. "What's going on?" Singluan hurriedly called out. The 4 black-robed old men, on the other hand, were dumbfounded and the disbelief on their faces turned more intense. Did he break through again? He broke through 2 levels in just 3.5 hours. This Was this pill really an immortal pill? Stop, second brother. After a while, one of the black-robed old men shouted in a deep voice. The black-robed old man, who was sitting cross-legged in cultivation, opened his eyes and raised his arm to wipe the blood on the corner of his mouth. After floating up, he cupped his fists toward Tan Xiao and said, "Mr. Tang's pill is definitely a legendary immortal pill. Even if my big brother didn't ask me to stop, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to continue cultivating. In such a short period of time, I made successive breakthroughs, and I could even feel that the medicinal power of that pill had not been completely absorbed and refined by me. I have a feeling that I'll be able to break through another level if I fully absorb and refine the medicinal efficacy of the pill." Hiss, the other 4 black-robed old men couldn't help but gasp after hearing it. Singluan wasn't an idiot. He could tell from the reaction of the black-robed old man who took the essence-amassing pill, coupled with what they said, that this pill given by Tang Xiu was definitely an immortal treasure. "It's a deal, Mr. Tang." Singluan realized that he had really clung onto someone's thigh. He even realized that cultivators were indeed as magical and powerful as the legend said. If he could completely cling onto a cultivator's thigh in the future, the benefits he would get would be far more than what he could see now. Suddenly, Singluan recalled something and weighed it inwardly for a moment. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Mr. Tang, I'm willing to go with Kutu since he wants to make things difficult for Uncle and Uncle Chen. If he dares to be arrogant, you don't need to say anything and I'll clean him up myself." Tan Xiu squinted his eyes. With his experience, he could tell from Singluan's words that this guy wanted to establish a friendship with him. Tan Xiu naturally wouldn't reject someone who could bring him benefits. He lightly smiled and said, "No problem. We'll go to Tea Country together after we deal with the matters here. However, there's something I need to figure out first. How are you going to deal with your big brother and father?" "My big brother must die because we've reached the point of life and death," said Singluan. "But my father has always been good to me, and I don't want him to get hurt. It's best to make him hand over all the power in his hands and retire somewhere." "If you tell me that you want to kill your father, I'll probably kill you after I deal with the matter in Tea Country," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "My friends, Tan Xiu, can only be good people. They can't be inhumane people. It's obvious that you're not one of them. I hope we can get along well in the future." "Definitely." Singluan nodded and replied with a serious expression. Tan Xiu then looked at Tang Yunda and smilingly said, "Dad, you don't need to go there again since you've already been to the Zhangs. Let Uncle Chen accompany me on this trip. I promise I'll solve this matter in 3 days at the latest." Tang Yunda and Chen Anhu exchanged glances before the former nodded and said, "All right, then. Anhu, you go with Xiu. I'll feel more at ease with you following him." "No problem," said Chen Anhu with a smile. At the north end of Xingluo Avenue, at the entrance of the Zhang family's residence, 6 black SUVs had just stopped when more than a dozen Zhang family security guards rushed inside. The stalwart man who took the lead shouted, "Who the hell are you people? This is a private residence, so you can't park your car here." Bam, 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 the doors of the 6 cars opened one after another as the stalwart men came out. After Tan Xiu and Chen Anhu came out of the car, Tan Xiu then said with a smile, "This entrance of the Zhang family is quite imposing. It seems that the Zhangs are one of the top families in Macau, no?" "Not exactly, but it's not a problem for them to be in the top 10. Chen Anhu shook his head. "It's just that the Zhangs have always been very arrogant, and their residence is also very imposing." Hee hee. Tan Xiu chuckled twice. He then looked at the vigilant man and said, "Go inform them that Tan Xiu has come to visit." Chapter 868. The big man of the Zhang family had extraordinary eyesight. He could sense that these people's auras were extraordinary. Therefore, he quickly used the intercom to report the situation outside to the captain in charge of the family's security issues. Inside the mansion, the Zhang family's patriarch, Zhang Pinqin, was looking at a calligraphy painting in his study. Beside him was the most outstanding genius of the Zhang family's new generation, Zhang Wendi, who was also his grandson. What do you think of this calligraphy painting? Zhang Pinqin reluctantly moved his eyes away from the painting and looked at his grandson. This calligraphy painting is just a string of numbers in my opinion, said Zhang Wendi indifferently. The longer the number, the better it is. Grandpa, you just need to tell me how much money I can get from selling this calligraphy painting. Wendy, there are many things that can't be measured with money. Zhang Pinqin shook his head and forced a smile. Don't look at the problem with such an indifferent attitude. I can tell you that money is just a string of numbers. 100 million and 100 billion are no different in my eyes. Money can make our Zhang family stronger and stronger, said Zhang Wendi seriously. It seems that my teaching you all these years has really gone wrong. Zhang Pinqin sighed helplessly. You don't look like a 20-year-old kid anymore, but more like a businessman who stinks of money. You're strict and ruthless in pursuing your own interests. Alas, this may be a good thing for our Zhang family, but for you. I think it's good, Grandpa, said Zhang Wendi indifferently. Knock, knock, the open door was knocked. The security captain, Zhang Wenjin, came and reported in a deep voice, Uncle, Wendi, someone has come to our Zhang family. He claims that he's Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu? Surnamed Tang. Zhang Pinqin squinted his eyes and looked at Zhang Wendi, asking, do you think we should greet him with a smile? Or should we drive him away? It's really interesting today, said Zhang Wendi with a grin. The Tang family is really strange. The famous young divine doctor. The magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. The Tang family's young master. With so many halos shrouding him, I really want to see him. Since you want to see him, then I'll leave this matter to you, said Zhang Pinqin indifferently. However, remember to quickly make arrangements for the Kutu royal city and take down those 2 ports as quickly as possible. If they really don't want to give up, I will pay a visit to the highest official of Hong Kong. You just have to kill them all. All right. Zhang Wendi casually agreed and followed Zhang Wenjin out of the room. 10 minutes later. In one of the courtyards of the Zhang family, Zhang Wendi sat in front of a stone table, quietly sipping tea. As a group of people arrived, his gaze fell on Tan Xiu, who was at the forefront. After looking at it for a few seconds, a look of disdain flashed across Zhang Wendi's face. She looked at the teapot again. Very arrogant. Tan Xiu went straight to the opposite side of Zhang Wendi. After sitting down, he grabbed the teapot and poured himself a cup of fragrant tea. After taking a sip, he indifferently said, I thought I could taste the real good tea from young Master Zhang, but I didn't expect that the taste of this tea is just so. Young Master Zhang, Zhang Wendi. Can I ask you a question? Anger flashed in Zhang Wendi's eyes. Just as he opened his mouth to say a word, Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. Tan Xiu pretended to be curious and asked, my question is very simple, and I'm sure you can answer it. Listen well, my question is, do your parents know that you're so arrogant? Bim, Zhang Wendi slapped the stone table. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as he coldly said, surnamed Tang, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak irresponsibly. This is not your Tang family in the imperial capital, but my Zhang family in Macau. Can I interpret it as, threatening me? Tan Xiu asked with a faint smile. So what if I threaten you? Zhang Wendi coldly replied. I can easily make you stay inside my Zhang family's door forever if I want to. What a fool. Tan Xiu shook his head. Then, he waved to Xingluan and said with a faint smile, you're a distinguished guest invited by me, so don't stand far away from me like the others. To be honest, the tea of the Zhang family is very ordinary. But don't care about the taste in this hot day. Just drink a few mouthfuls to quench your thirst. Xingluan walked to the stone table with a smile and took a seat. He copied Tan Xiu's style and poured himself a cup of tea. After drinking it, he pursed his lips and said, you're right, Mr. Tang. Even if I know nothing about the tea ceremony and don't like to drink tea, I can still taste that this tea is really not good. The Zhang family in Macau is a big family, yet they treat their guests with such a stingy attitude. It's really unexpected. Who the hell are you? Zhang Wendy angrily shouted. Talk to Mr. Tang if you have something to say. Xingluan waved his hand. In the words of your Huaxia country, I'm just a bystander, a hired thug. Zhang Wendy abruptly got up with a smile on his handsome face. As time passed by, the smile on his face became more and more intense. Finally, he burst into laughter and said, not bad at all. No one has ever dared to be so arrogant in front of me since I can remember. This Tan Xiu has a good life since he has the Tang family's protection. But I want to know, who do you have to protect you? If not, you won't be able to leave here alive even if Tan Xiu is here. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, the sound of applause came from outside the courtyard gate. A middle-aged man with a stocky build was clapping his hands as he led a dozen strong men into the courtyard. Young Master Zhang is right. If you want to be arrogant, you must have a strong background. Those who have no background and strength will eventually be struck to death by lightning. Xingluan's eyes turned cold. He didn't even need to turn his head to recognize the owner of the voice. With his back facing the man, he sneered and said, I don't know if my background is strong or not. Why don't you tell me what my background is like? You could have furrowed his brows. He vaguely felt that the voice was familiar. Xingluan turned his head and looked at Kudu, who was approaching step by step. He then sneered and said, You haven't answered my question yet. Is my background strong or not? Can he be mentioned in the same breath as you? Kudu's body shook and disbelief flashed in his eyes. He never dreamed that he would meet the family's second young master here. If it was in the past, he might not have taken this second young master seriously. But now, he knew very well that the patriarch had begun to assess the two young masters. Whoever was stronger would be the patriarch in the future. Furthermore, the most important thing was that the patriarch valued this second young master more after learning about him a few days ago. The possibility of him becoming the patriarch in the future was very high. Second young master. Kuta squeezed out a smile and stepped forward to greet him. How can I dare to answer you calling me second young master? Xingluan sneered. I don't have the strength to act like a pretentious prick. My dark shaman clan is even weaker. I'm afraid I'll be struck by lightning if I boast here. But you. I really admire your arrogant and domineering attitude. You're really amazing. I didn't know it was you just now, second young master, so I said some disrespectful words to you. I hope you don't mind it, said Kudu awkwardly. The Zhangs are our dark shaman clan's allies, so, Xingluan snorted coldly. Zhang Wendy was shocked. He never expected that the brat who came with Tan Xiu would turn out to be the dark shaman clan's second young master. He had seen the eldest young master of the dark shaman clan before, but it was his first time seeing this second young master. He heard that the dark shaman clan's second young master was a ruthless and very talented young man. He had gained control of some of the dark shaman clan's forces by relying on his own means and was recognized by some of the clan's elders. But how did he get involved with Tan Xiu? I'm in trouble. Zhang Wendy shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, Is inviting the dark shaman clan's second young master your trump card? Why would I, Tan Xiu, need a trump card to deal with such a trivial matter? Asked Tan Xiu back. You don't need one. Zhang Wendy sneered. Your father came here today and eventually left with his tail between his legs. Do you think you're more powerful than your father? Let's not talk about these useless things. Tan Xiu shook his head. Let your Zhang family's patriarch come forward. I'll give you a chance. It's up to you whether you can grasp it or not. Just you. Zhang Wendy sneered. You're not qualified to let my grandpa see you. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. After drinking a cup of tea, he indifferently said, "Will your grandpa come out to see me immediately after I kill you?" Whoosh! Jin Shi's figure flickered lightning fast and instantly dashed out from the crowd not far away. His sword flashed and went straight to Zhang Wendi's throat. "Bastard!" An aged voice thundered like a clap of thunder as a senile old man instantly appeared in front of Zhang Wendi. He held a 2-foot-long axe in his hand and roared as he formed layers of axe shadows that blocked Jin Shi's sword attack. Puff! The senile old man's body suddenly shook and he staggered backward. Fortunately, Zhang Wendi was quick to react and instantly supported his back, preventing him from flying backward and falling down. However, the old man spurted out a mouthful of blood that was particularly dazzling to the eyes of all the Zhang family members present. "Continue." Tan Xiu's voice was very calm. The old man raised his arm to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth and shouted, "Hold on. I have something to say." "What do you want to say?" Tan Xiu lightly said. "Don't beg for mercy. That's just a waste of time and saliva. Since you want to see my Zhang family's patriarch, I'll immediately notify him to come out and see you," said the old man in a deep voice. "Let's not use force to solve the problem that can be discussed at the negotiation table. To put it bluntly, we're all pursuing benefits and wealth." Tan Xiu glanced at the old man and smilingly said, "You're afraid, aren't you, old geezer? It's no wonder, though. After all, you've broken through the threshold of martial arts grandmaster and reached a higher level, yet you can't even withstand 50% or 60% of my strength. You must be scared, right?" Chapter 869. The Zhang family's old man's face turned red and a look of humiliation flashed in his eyes. He was a martial arts grandmaster of his generation. Even those martial arts grandmasters had to be respectful to him, so how could he be mocked and ridiculed by such a young guy? But he knew that Tan Xiu was right. He was indeed frightened because the guy he just fought was much stronger than him, be it in terms of strength or speed. If it wasn't for the burning sensation coming from his internal organs and the stifling and uncomfortable feeling in his chest, he wouldn't have believed that the other party could be so strong. Even if the other party started cultivating in his mother's womb, it was impossible for him to be so strong. "Who is he?" The Zhang family's old man shot a deep look at Jin Shi and then turned his head and asked. "What's the point of asking this question now?" asked Tan Xiu faintly. "As the saying goes, a powerful dragon cannot suppress a local snake. But I don't believe it. Your Zhang family is very strong in Macau, but I'm going to suppress you until you have no temper." Whoosh, whoosh, as Tan Xiu's voice faded, Jin Shi's figure flashed again and instantly pounced toward the Zhang family's old man. At the same time, Shui Sha also acted at the same time. His figure instantly appeared in front of Zhang Wendi and a Mitsubishi army knife appeared in his hand out of thin air. The tip of the knife then swept toward Zhang Wendi's throat. "Stop!" Two middle-aged men rushed out of the crowd. One of them moved lightning fast to block Zhang Wendi, while the other pounced toward Shui Sha from the side. Puff, 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 the Zhang family's old man was bombarded by dozens of punches. His old body was like a fallen leaf as he flew backward. As for the two middle-aged men, they were instantly drenched in blood, and horrifying wounds covered their entire bodies. While protecting Zhang Wendi, they were barely able to avoid hitting their vital parts. Done. Tan Xiu took out a half-pack of cigarettes, lit one and threw the rest to Xingluan. He came to the Zhang family this time to solve the problem, not to start a massacre. Jin Shi didn't attack again and went straight back behind Tan Xiu. Shui Sha, on the other hand, pursed his lips and said, "Just kill these rookies, boss. As long as you say the word, we'll slaughter the entire Zhang family." In the past, we often did things like exterminating sections. Tan Xiu's expression turned cold as he said, "If you want to exterminate a sect, then get the hell out of the country. Don't cause trouble for me in the country." "Yes." Shui Sha took a few steps back in embarrassment and no longer spoke amidst the strange laughter of Jin Shi and the others. Tan Xiu shifted to the pale and fearful Zhang Wendi and indifferently said, "Arrogance? You must have the capital to back it up. You are arrogant in front of me, and your Zhang clan is arrogant in front of me. You are stupid to the extreme. My father is soft-hearted and doesn't want to fall out with your Zhang family. But I'm different. If you annoy me, I only need to nod my head and all the Zhangs will be slaughtered. 3 minutes. I'll give you 3 minutes. If your Zhang family's patriarch doesn't appear in front of me within 3 minutes, then you don't need to show yourself. Zhang Wendi looked at the 3 elders of his family who were covered with scars and finally realized how terrifying Tan Xiu was. Almost without hesitation, he shouted, "Go and invite my grandpa here at once." No need. Zhang Pinqin strode into the courtyard under the escort of more than a dozen Zhangs. His pupils suddenly shrunk when he saw the situation in the courtyard. He dashed to the seriously injured old man, supported him, and asked, "Second brother, are you all right?" The old man shook his head and forced a smile. "The injury is very serious, but it's not fatal." "Big brother, they are too strong." Zhang Pinqin turned to look at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "You're Tan Xiu of the Tang family, right? Are you trying to bully my Zhang family just because the Tang family is powerful?" "You can say that." Tan Xiu said lightly. "I'm bullying your Zhang family. What can you do to me? I'll accompany you to play if you want to fight." Zhang Pinqin didn't expect that Tan Xiu would be so arrogant, but he was well aware of the strength of his second brother and 2 nephews. Yet, they were seriously injured at this moment, which meant that the other party was even stronger. "Cut the you and me and you and me," Tan Xiu said lightly. "I don't intend to kill anyone in your Zhang family this time. However, you dare to threaten us, so I won't let this matter go. Tell me, how do you plan to compensate us?" "Compensate?" Zhang Pinqin was shaken inwardly and asked in a deep voice, "What do you mean?" "The Zhangs want those 2 ports, but they are the properties of my father and Uncle Chen." Tan Xiu sneered. "Tell me, Uncle Chen. Isn't the Zhangs very arrogant? Did I traumatize all of you? Do you want some compensation for the mental damage you suffered?" Chen Anhu, who had just been shocked by the fierce battle, looked at the indifferent expression on Tan Xiu's face. He finally realized why his brother, Tang Yunda, invited his son over. Tan Xiu had a lot of powerful experts following him. However, recalling the power the Zhangs had in Macau, he opened his mouth and finally forced a wry smile and said, "Forget about the mental damage compensation, Tan Xiu. Just forget it as long as the Zhangs don't have any ideas about our 2 ports. Is that so?" A faint smile appeared on Tan Xiu's face. Zhang Pinqin looked at the docile Kutu, who was standing silently not far away and said in a deep voice, "Kutu, aside from my Zhang family, your dark shaman clan also needs those 2 ports. What's wrong? They are bullying my Zhang family now, and you're just going to watch." Kuta glanced at Singluan and let out a dry smile. "Zhang Patriarch, we may be allies, but my second young master is here, so I don't have the right to speak." "Second young master?" "The second young master of the Dark Shaman clan, Singluan." Zhang Pinqin glanced at the crowd and his eyes finally landed on the white-haired Singluan. "I'm just Mr. Tang's hatchet man today," said Singluan indifferently. "Whoever dares to go against Mr. Tang is going against me, Singluan. The Zhangs may be an ally of my Dark Shaman clan, but not mine. So I hope your Zhang family will lower their stance to the lowest level, else." "Singluan, do you think you can be the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan?" Zhang Pinqin angrily shouted. He grabbed his mobile and was about to call the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, Kelda. "Zhang Patriarch, you must think about it clearly," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Once you make this call, it's tantamount to shedding all pretense of cordiality with me. I don't know if your Zhang family can bear the consequences." Zhang Pinqin's expression turned stiff. His finger hovered over the dial button, but he didn't press it in the end. He then turned to look at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "You want my Zhang family to bow down to you? You'll have to defeat the strongest expert of my family. I'll tell you in advance that my Zhang family's ancestor has lived for 206 years and his cultivation has reached the acme of perfection. Even martial arts grandmasters are nothing but ants in front of him. If we can defeat your Zhang family's ancestor, does it mean that your family will agree to any conditions I put forward? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. A disdainful look flashed in Zhang Pinqin's eyes as he proudly said, "That's right. If you can defeat my family's strongest ancestor, we won't hesitate even if you ask us to cede our land and compensate you." "Big brother." The seriously injured old man hurriedly called out. "You don't need to say anything more." Zhang Pinqin raised his hand and sneered. "Our Zhang family can cut off our heads and bleed, but we will never accept such humiliation." Clap, clap, Tan Xiu applauded and sighed, "You're really bold, Zhang family's patriarch. We accept your conditions. Let your Zhang family's ancestor appear. As long as we lose, not only will we immediately leave the Zhang family, but we'll also compensate your family. Whether it's money or the 2 ports, we'll immediately give it to you." At the side, Chen Anhu's expression greatly changed and he hurriedly said, "Tan Xiu, this." Tan Xiu raised his hand and indifferently said, "Uncle Chen, if you trust me, then let me handle this matter. You're my father's brother, so I won't let you suffer a loss no matter what the outcome is." Chen Anhu's expression changed and he angrily said, "What the hell are you talking about? I'm your father's brother, so my things are your father's. Since you've made up your mind, then do whatever you want to do. If worst comes to worst, we'll compensate you with the 2 ports." Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and looked at Mo, saying, "You can play with them later." "Understood." Mo respectfully nodded. 10 minutes later, an old man with a shaved head and dressed in white training clothes walked in from outside. He was thin, but his eyes were bright and full of expression. After he entered the courtyard, his eyes were locked on Mo and the others. "Interesting, very interesting." The old man smiled and said, "I haven't seen such an interesting thing for hundreds of years. I originally thought that no one in this world would dare to challenge me except for those special people. But I never thought that I would bump into some extremely bold kids today." A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He looked at the old man and said, "I didn't expect that the Zhang family's ancestor would be so gifted and enter the Dao through martial arts, stepping into the foundation establishment stage. You should be the one with the highest attainment in martial arts I've ever met." The old man's expression turned particularly solemn as he looked at Tan Xiu and asked, "You know about the foundation establishment stage? Who are you?" Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, "Don't put on a strange look. You don't need to know who I am right now. You only need to know that if you lose, you must restrain your zhangs. You're a frog in a well, but don't be so arrogant and domineering. I can't see how powerful you are, but it's meaningless to play the hero with your mouth." The old man snorted coldly. "Make your move. Let me see your strength." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "You're not qualified to make me publish a book. I'll accompany him to play." Mo strode forward and exuded a surging aura. He cupped his fists and said, "Since my boss said that I can't kill you directly, then I can only play with you according to the rules of martial arts. Old geezer, don't blame me for not reminding you to use your strongest strength, else you'll lose all your face if you lose." Chapter 870. The ancestor of the Zhang family, Zhang Hongding, had a pair of torch-like eyes. He could easily judge that the aura exuded by Mo was stronger than what he could unleash. The oppressive feeling brought by this aura made him put away his contempt. "Young man, you must maintain the virtue of respecting the old and loving the young." As Zhang Hongding's voice faded away, he turned into an afterimage and dashed to the front of Mo, throwing dozens of punches in a second. Bam! The dull sound of fists colliding made most of the onlookers' complexions slightly change. Among them, Chen Anhu was the most shocked. He used to be one of the top special forces soldiers in the country. He had gone through a hail of bullets, braved through life and death countless times, and encountered countless experts. Yet, He had never encountered such a terrifying existence, who was even more powerful than those martial arts experts he saw in the movies. A few seconds later, Zhang Hongding retreated 7 or 8 steps with blue veins bulging on his old face and disbelief in his eyes. The gray coat on his chest had been torn and a clear fist mark could be seen on it. Mo All looked calm and composed as he contemptuously glanced at Zhang Hongding. Then, he came to Tan Xiu and respectfully said, "This old geezer lost, boss." Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and gently flicked his fingers. Then, he followed Mo All to the side and indifferently said, "How about it? Do you think it's necessary to continue?" Zhang Hongding shook his head bitterly. Although the fight between him and Mo All was only a few seconds and others might not be able to see the crux of the problem, he was very clear that he lost very miserably. Had Mo All wanted to kill him just now, he would have had at least several chances to take his life. "I lost." Zhang Hongding looked at Mo All with a complicated expression. He then turned to Tan Xiu and sighed, "It's a complete loss, and this old man accepts it wholeheartedly. Young man, tell me your purpose in coming to my Zhang family." Tan Xiu got up and applauded with a smile. "Things are much easier since you admit your loss. Zhang family head, do you still keep your words?" With humiliation in his eyes, Zhang Pinqin coldly said, "You lost the bet. Tell me your conditions." Tan Xiu's face turned cold and he said in a deep voice, "Your Zhang family is not allowed to have any designs on those 2 ports starting from today. Within 3 days, transfer at least 2 of the ports that your Zhang family owns to me. Consider it as compensation for Uncle Chen Anhu's emotional distress." Zhang Pinqin clenched his fists and said in a deep voice, "I promise you." Tan Xiu sneered and said, "I only want your 2 ports this time. But all of you from the Zhang family, remember this. You'd better find out clearly before you plot against others. I don't care if you provoke others, but if you provoke someone I care about, I'll wipe out your entire clan." His voice fell. A surging momentum surged out of Tang Xiu's body as a long sword appeared out of thin air in his hand. Countless people in the courtyard felt a suffocating oppressive feeling as Tang Xiu brandished his sword and slashed toward the 3-story Western-style building in the north. Boom, the sword chi crisscrossed and the sword light was like a rainbow. The magnificent 3-story building was split in half in an instant, and then it collapsed with a loud bang, causing a cloud of dust to fly everywhere. Hiss, the Zhang family's ancestor, Zhang Hongding, shivered amidst the gasps. He looked at Tan Xiu with eyes full of fear. That aura, that strength, Zhang Hongding clearly realized that Tan Xiu's attainments in martial arts were at least several levels higher than his own. It was very likely that Tan Xiu was a cultivator, and the weakest among them was at the Golden Core stage. He realized that if the person he just fought with was Tan Xiu could have easily slapped him to death. Tan Xiu was very satisfied with the Zhang's horror. He had achieved his goal of establishing his might and prestige, so he didn't feel like staying here any longer. His eyes shifted to Kutu from Tea Country and indifferently said, "Go back to Tea Country as soon as possible. Remember to tell your Dark Shaman clan's patriarch that I'll personally visit you in a few days." Understood. Despite being a very powerful wizard, Kutu didn't dare to show the slightest disrespect in front of Tan Xiu. The sword strike Tan Xiu displayed just now sent a chill down his spine. He was perfectly aware that he was absolutely not a match for Tan Xiu. Even the patriarch of his clan might not necessarily be a match for Tan Xiu. On the way back, Chen Anhu felt like he was dreaming. The problem that had been giving him a headache recently was easily solved by Tan Xiu. Furthermore, he didn't even dare to think that he could snatch 2 ports from the Zhangs. It must be noted that the ports occupied by the Zhangs were very good places, which would be of great help to expand their business in the future and earn more money. Tang Xiu, do you think your Uncle Chen can become as powerful as you? Chen Anhu couldn't help but ask while looking at Tan Xiu, who had his eyes closed and didn't speak. Tan Xiu shook his head and said with a smile, "Uncle Chen, if you could be 20 years younger, there might still be hope in the future. But now, you can cultivate your body and mind and practice some martial arts that can prolong your life. How about this? I'll stay at your place for a day and teach you some things. Chen Anhu was pleasantly surprised and said, Good, good, good. Uncle Chen will welcome you with open arms. Tan Xiu smiled and turned to look out of the window. The environment of Macau was very good. He actually liked it here, especially the sunny beach. It reminded him of the dream he had when he was in school and when he saw the sunny beach on TV. That was, one day, he would be able to go to that kind of place to play. I was really childish back then, Tan Xiu couldn't help but laugh. Just as he was about to look away, his expression suddenly changed. Almost in an instant, he opened the door and rushed out. Stop the car. Chen Anhu, who was sitting next to Tan Xiu, felt his heart in his throat. Looking at the empty seat and the open and closed door, he was extremely nervous. He couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu was courting death. What's the situation now? The speed of the car is at least about 100 kilometers. Did he just open the door and rush out? Creak, the car quickly stopped on the side of the road. Chen Anhu hurriedly moved to the place where Tan Xiu was just sitting. Looking out the window, he suddenly became dumbfounded. He saw Tang Xiu dashing toward the beach not far away, just like a martial arts expert in the movies performing his lightness skill. What's over there? 2 kilometers away, more than a dozen youths dressed in fancy clothes surrounded 2 people in the middle. These 2 people had bruised noses and swollen faces, and there were traces of blood at the corners of their mouths. It was obvious that they had been beaten very badly. They were Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong, who came to Macau for a vacation. Call your family and ask them to give us money. 1 cent less, I'll cut off one of your hands. 2 cents less, I'll cut off your limbs. A young man with dyed red hair, wearing earrings, and a toothpick in the corner of his mouth looked like a gangster. He pointed a baseball bat at the 2 and shouted arrogantly. Bah! Hu Qingsong spat out a mouthful of blood. He fiercely glared at the red-haired man and shouted, I don't have money, but I'll give you my life. Cut off my limbs if you have the guts. Yu Kai struggled to get up from the ground. He grabbed Hu Qingsong's arm and hurriedly shouted, Old Hu, don't show off. Big brothers, it's all our fault. We didn't know that those 2 beauties were your people. 100,000 yuan is too much for us. Let alone us, I'm afraid that even our families can't afford it. What do you think? 50,000 yuan. We'll call them immediately and try to give you 50,000 yuan as soon as possible. Yu Kai, why are you giving in to these bastards? Hu Qingsong angrily retorted. They want to mess with me. But I want to drag them down with me. Yu Kai interrupted him and angrily yelled, Are you done yet? A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him, don't you? They don't have many people, but they're all good fighters. You can continue to show off if you can knock them all down, but shut up if you can't. Hu Qingsong opened his mouth and finally turned his face to the side unwillingly. He was very good at fighting, and even a few common hooligans were not his match. But this time, they really kicked an iron plate. These dozen guys were all martial artists. Although they dressed like hooligans, their skills were really good. At the very least, he didn't have the confidence to knock them down if he were to fight them alone. Yu Kai endured the pain in his body and grabbed his mobile. After thinking for a while, he immediately found a number and dialed it. Ring, 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 the ringtone of his mobile made Yu Kai stare blankly. It was because the sound coming from his mobile phone and the ringtone coming from nearby were too coincidental. It was as if he was dialing right in front of him. Following the ringtone, he turned his head and looked at the source. An incredulous look immediately appeared on his swollen and bruised face. Big bro Tang. Yu Kai rubbed his eyes hard, thinking that his vision was blurred from the beating just now. Tan Xiu, who was standing more than 10 meters away from the group of people, had already taken out a cigarette and lit it up. He had clearly heard Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong's threats. As everyone's eyes looked at him, Tan Xiu slowly walked over. Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong's bruised and swollen faces, as well as the blood on the corners of their mouths, made him angry inwardly. Yet, he didn't show any expression on his face and instead revealed a smile. "You two are having fun, aren't you?" Yukai finally confirmed that the person was Tan Xiao and called out in ecstasy, "Big bro Tang, why are you here?" "You can be here, so why can't I be here?" Tan Xiao said. "What's going on? Did you two come here to have fun? Or were you kidnapped?" Hu Qingsong also clearly saw Tan Xiao. His rough face was full of embarrassment. The feeling of making a fool of himself made him want to find a hole to burrow into. Upon hearing Tan Xiao's inquiry, his lips squirmed a few times as he braced himself and said, "Big bro Tang, we came here to travel, but these bastards set us up." "Tell me, how did they set you up?" Tan Xiao said with a smile. The red-haired youth raised the baseball bat in his hand and pointed at Tan Xiao with a strange smile. "Whoa. Big bro Tang. It turns out that you're the big bro of these two brats. What's up? Did you come here to deliver money? Or did you come here to be abused together with them?" Chapter 871. Tan Xiao looked at the red-haired youth with a strange expression. Amidst the mocking laughter, he was about to speak when he suddenly saw two beautiful girls in bikinis and sunglasses coming over. Their figures were quite good and their skin was very fair. Tan Xiao also noticed that Yukai and Hu Qingsong swallowed their saliva at the same time. What a bunch of good-for-nothings. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether to cry or laugh as he asked, "Did you two fall into some kind of immortal trap?" In an instant, Yukai and Hu Qingsong blushed at the same time. Seeing that Tan Xiao ignored him, the red-haired youth immediately shouted angrily, "Brat, you're fucking crazy, aren't you? This father is talking to you, yet you dare to act like a pretentious prick in front of me?" Tan Xiao raised his brows and said, "I won't bother to deal with you if you provoke others. But these two are my buddies, yet they were beaten up by you. Let's settle this account. As for whether or not I'm arrogant, whether or not I'm just showing off, you'll see soon enough." After saying that, Tan Xiao strode to the front of the red-haired youth and fiercely slapped his face. After slapping the red-haired youth to the ground, he looked at the other dozens of youths who wanted to make a move and shouted in a deep voice, "Think about it. Once you fight with me, the consequences will be very serious." Imposing manner. It instantly overwhelmed everyone present. The complexions of the dozens of youths who wanted to make a move slightly changed. Although they were not big shots and didn't have much experience, they still had the eyesight. The imposing manner displayed by Tan Xiao made them faintly realize that this young man in front of them was probably not ordinary. "Whoa, who's this handsome guy? So handsome. If he pursues me, I'll definitely agree immediately." After the two girls in bikinis approached, they looked at Tan Xiao's handsome face and grinned as they called out. Even one of the more courageous and thick-skinned girls came to Tan Xiao and reached out to pinch Tan Xiao's arm. "Pa! Pa!" Tang Xiao directly slapped the two girls' faces and slapped them to the beach. Then, he coldly snorted and said, "You two are the instigators who caused my two brothers to be beaten. So I'll slap each of you to teach you a lesson. Don't play those immortal tricks again in the future." The red-haired young man struggled to get up from the beach. He covered his face and looked at Tan Xiao in disbelief. Anger exploded in his chest. "Are you all fucking stupid? Beat him to death." 100 meters away, Mo and the others dashed over. In just a few seconds, they rushed to the vicinity of Tan Xiao. The moment those hooligans pounced on Tan Xiao, Mo and the others directly made their move. After a series of punches and kicks, more than a dozen gangsters were all beaten to the ground. Hiss, the red-haired youth finally realized that he seemed to have provoked a powerful person. The martial arts of these robust men that suddenly appeared were too powerful. He also knew martial arts. He had been training in the Jingjin martial arts school for nearly a decade. Even if 5 or 6 young and strong men joined hands, they would still be no match for him. These brothers around him had also been training with him in the Jingjin martial arts school for 5 or 6 years. Usually, it wouldn't be a problem for one of them to fight 2 or 3 people. However, these dozens of brothers were all beaten down in less than 10 seconds, indicating that these big men were all powerful characters. "You, who the hell are you?" The red-haired youth retreated a few steps and asked with a vigilant face. Tan Xiu ignored him and looked at Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong instead, asking, "What do you think we should do next? Should we cripple them? Or should we directly kick them out?" "Beat them up and let us vent our anger," said Yu Kai aloud. Hu Qingsong's expression was a bit strange. After being silent for more than 10 seconds, he reached out to pull Yu Kai, shook his head and said, "Kick them out." This time, we were indeed careless and fell into their tricks. I'll remember today's lesson so that I can be more vigilant in the future. Yu Kai, there's no need to lower yourself to the same level as these punks, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Beat them up if you don't like it. I'll break their limbs if they dare to resist. Yu Kai hesitated and looked at Hu Qingsong. Then, he shook his head and said with a dry smile, "Forget it. They're just good-for-nothing punks, so I don't feel like bickering with them anymore." But old Hu is right. I won't be blinded by lust if I encounter this kind of situation again in the future. Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. He then looked at the crowd and said, "You heard it. Do you still want money? No, it's all our fault. No, no, no. How can we dare to ask for money? We'll leave right away." More than a dozen punks, who had been beaten miserably, suddenly struggled to get up from the ground and ran away while talking. The red-haired youth also ran more than 10 meters away. Just when he thought that Tan Xiu and the others couldn't catch up with him, he stopped and turned around, shouting, "Just you wait. I won't be a gentleman if I don't take revenge for this. I'll make you pay for it sooner or later." Mo's expression changed and he immediately wanted to chase after him. Tan Xiu reached out to stop him and smilingly said, "You're just a kid. After suffering a loss, you'll say some fierce words to save your face, thinking that you can save a lot of face. Just tell him to scram and ignore them." Mo nodded. The two girls, who were slapped by Tan Xiu, did not run away like the other young punks, nor did they show any anger. Strangely, they looked surprised. After getting up, they stood 7 or 8 meters away from Tan Xiu as if they were looking at a rare animal. "You two are still young, yet you don't learn good things. You'll only become the vermin of society in the future. Scram. Think about it later and don't go further down the wrong path." Tan Xiu reprimanded the two girls and then pulled Hu Qingsong and Yu Kai away. On the beach, the two girls stared at Tan Xiu's back. Suddenly, one of them shouted, "What's your name, handsome? Do you have a girlfriend or not?" Unfortunately, she didn't get the answer she wanted. They didn't leave until the back of Tan Xiu and the others disappeared on the road in the distance. Yeah, this is the real handsome. I've thought it through. I'll go back and immediately inform that red-haired guy. I'll firmly draw a line with him in the future. I'm going to embark on a journey to find love. I'm going to pursue that handsome guy." The slightly taller girl clenched her small fist and solemnly vowed. The girl called Yaya shouted, "I want to go with him, too. Let's have a fair competition. Whoever can make that handsome guy prostrate himself under her skirt will be his." Deal. Afterward, the two girls scattered their cheerful laughter on the beach and quickly walked toward the 2 luxury supercars in the parking lot in the distance. On the side of the road in the distance, Chen Anhu watched as the group of people came back. His eyes glanced at Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong, who were badly beaten, and then landed on Tan Xiu. He strode forward and said with a bit of dissatisfaction, "Tan Xiu, your action just now was too rash. You directly opened the door and rushed out at a speed of about 100 kilometers per hour. What if you got injured?" "I'm fine, Uncle Chen," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I just saw 2 brothers being bullied, so I couldn't help but rush over." "Yu Kai, old Hu, this is Uncle Chen, the big boss of Macau's Ding Feng Group." "Hello, Uncle Chen." I'm Yu Kai, said Yu Kai honestly. Hello, Uncle Chen. I'm Hu Qingsong, said Hu Qingsong. Chen Anhu nodded. He could naturally see that Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong were just ordinary people and shouldn't have any martial arts background. However, although their clothes were not branded, they were not children from poor families. Hello. Chen Anhu nodded and smilingly said, did you have a conflict with others? Do you want me to send some people to help you teach those brats a lesson? Thanks for your kindness, Uncle Chen. Hu Qingsong shook his head. Big Bro Tang has just brought some people to beat those guys up, so our anger has been vented. That's good. Just look for me if you need anything in the future, said Chen Anhu with a smile. Tang Xiu patted their shoulders and smilingly said, you came to Macau for a vacation, so have a good time and have some fun. However, you're injured these 2 days, so you'd better behave yourself. Do you want to visit Uncle Chen's place with me? Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong exchanged glances. Hu Qingsong immediately shook his head and said, we won't disturb you, Uncle Chen. Chapter 872. The bright sun shone down on the earth as hundreds of flowers bloomed, embellishing the villa's courtyard with a beautiful scene. Holding a book, Tan Xiu quietly sat on a stone bench in the villa's courtyard, but he didn't have any intention to read it. The sudden news made him temporarily give up on his plan to go to Tea Country. We can only wait, Mr. Tang. With a bit of regret in his eyes, Xingluan stood in front of Tan Xiu and spoke helplessly. Tan Xiu nodded in silence. After a long while, he said, since your big brother has temporarily gone to Europe, then we'll talk about it later. Keep an eye on him and inform me immediately once you get the news of his return to Tea Country. Don't worry. I'll definitely send someone to keep an eye on him, said Xingluan. That's right, about our deal, I'll be waiting for you in Shanghai 3 days later, said Tan Xiu. I'll give you the pill as long as you bring me the Sorcerer's Stone. Xingluan, we did have some conflicts before, but it's all in the past. I hope you won't take it to heart. I hope we can be friends in the future, not enemies. I understand, Mr. Tang, said Xingluan solemnly. Although there is a mutually beneficial relationship between us, I don't dare to provoke you and I can't afford to offend you. It's better to be friends with a powerhouse than to be an enemy. I'll never do anything to let you down as long as you don't do anything to harm me in the future. Keep your words in mind and go, said Tan Xiu with satisfaction. Xingluan didn't stay any longer and left under Tan Xiu's watchful eyes. The Jade Rat had given him a huge opportunity, and he wanted to seize it. Therefore, he must hurry back to find out his big brother's whereabouts and strive to help Tan Xiu get the Jade Pig. The zodiac carvings might have some benefits for him, but the gap was too big compared to elixirs. He wanted to get more pills to make his strength advance by leaps and bounds and become a real powerhouse. He also hoped that he could use these pills to cultivate a large number of experts. At the very least, he wanted them to be like Tang Xiu's men. Even if they were to face the famous Zhang family in Macau, they could still crush them with a strong deterrence. In the courtyard, Tan Xiu looked at Chen Anhu, who was practicing seriously according to the cultivation method he taught him, and sighed in his heart. Actually, he could help Chen Anhu step onto the path of cultivation, but the path of immortality was difficult, and once he failed, his soul might scatter and he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Right now, although he had imparted the cultivation method to his parents and a dozen core members of the Tang family, he did not have much hope for them. After all, cultivating and seeking the Tao wasn't something that could be done in a day. Whether or not they could achieve great things in the future and ascend to the celestial realm depended on him. Xiu, are you thinking about something? Tang Yunda walked in from outside and was surprised to find that his son didn't notice him. Tan Xiu came back to his senses and said with a smile, I'm indeed thinking about something, Dad. What? Are you done? Tang Yunda couldn't help laughing and said, what's so busy about me? He just looked at the financial statements of the company in Macau to understand the company's recent business. Actually, the busiest person is your Uncle Chen. But what's wrong with him? Does he want to follow you in cultivation? Uncle Chen isn't suitable for cultivation, at least not now, said Tan Xiu. I'll teach him some training methods to strengthen his body and prolong his life. Let him cultivate first. Everyone wants to obtain immortal fate, but how can this path be so easy to walk on? Tang Yunda laughed. Otherwise, the number of cultivators in the world wouldn't be so few. That's right, have you solved the matters in Macau? What's your next plan? Or are you going to tea country? Singluan told me that his brother went to Europe, so I won't go to tea country for the time being. Tan Xiu shook his head. I'm going back to the mainland tomorrow to deal with some urgent matters. I feel more and more useless compared to you, Xiu, said Tang Yunda with a forced smile. But you're still young, so don't work too hard. You can't make enough money, and your career is also endless. As for cultivation, you should also have some relaxation and slowly progress. In my opinion, you should take a good rest for some time, have a relationship, and enjoy life. Your mother is looking forward to holding a grandson. I'm only 21 years old, Dad, so I'm not in a hurry, said Tan Xiu. I'm still young, so I need to be more aggressive. I'll fight more if I can. My path is destined to be different from others. If I don't work hard now, it will be difficult for me to move forward in the future. Tang Yunda was silent for a while. Then, he seriously asked, can you tell me what your ultimate dream is, Xiu? What exactly are you working so hard for? Tan Xiu got up and pointed to the vast sky, saying, the goal of the first stage is to break the shackles above my head and set foot on a higher space. As for the future, eagles soar in the sky, fishes soar in the shallow waters, and all kinds of creatures compete for freedom in the frosty sky. The lost and lost corridor asks the vast earth, who will be the master of the ups and downs? You, Tang Yunda stared blankly at Tan Xiu. He opened his mouth but swallowed back the words he wanted to say. His son's words made him realize that his son's heart was very big, so big that he couldn't even imagine it. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and looked at Tang Yunda. Then, he suddenly said, Dad, I suddenly changed my mind. Since I've decided to go back to the mainland first, I won't waste any more time. I'll go back immediately. That's right, when will you go back? I'll stay here for some time, said Tang Yunda. I'll leave after solving the port's matter. Tan Xiu nodded and shouted in a deep voice, Gu Tao, Zhang Ju, both of you will follow my father for the time being and protect his safety. I'll arrange someone to replace you when I go back. Understood. Gu Tao and Zhang Ju appeared outside the courtyard and respectfully complied. Evening. Tan Xiu returned to Shanghai and contacted Shuiyu immediately. After learning that she was in Xichang province, he immediately rushed over with Mo, Jin Shi, Shui Sha, and He Xiong. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening when he arrived there. Chang City, the capital city of Xichang province, had been developing rapidly in recent years and had reached the level of a second-tier city in the country. The Bai Square in the center of the city was filled with high-rise buildings and high-end shops. The Chang City Hotel was located near the Bai Square. Tan Xiu. At the hotel's entrance, Shuiyu, dressed in a long white dress, watched Tan Xiu get out of the car in front of her. She was very happy because she had been busy out of town recently, while Tan Xiu was also busy out of town. It had been a long time since the two of them met. Tan Xiu faintly smiled and stepped forward to hug her. Then, he asked with a smile, how are you doing here? I think it's very easy according to your previous idea, said Shuiyu with a smile. Now, aside from medicinal herbs, I'm also dabbling in jade, antiques, and antiques. The company I've registered is also expanding very fast, and the profits brought by the business are very high. Tan Xiu chuckled and said, it's no problem to do business, but don't delay your cultivation. The path we must take in the future is destined to be different from ordinary people. I know, said Shuiyu with a smile. Let's go. Tan Xiu nodded. We'll rest here for the night and immediately rush to Longquan Bay in Kanas tomorrow morning. We'll strive to open the immortal trove as soon as possible and see what's inside. Shuiyu hesitated and asked, can we stay for one more day? I still have some things to deal with here. The guests I invited will arrive in Chang City tomorrow afternoon. Who are they? Tan Xiu was surprised. There are two of them, said Shuiyu. One is an herb gatherer, and the other is a dragon-seeking master. Both of them are not ordinary people. An elder in the clan introduced them to me after I returned to the village. The elder said that if I can get their help, it'll be equal to having my left and right arms in the future. I know about herb gatherers, said Tan Xiu with a puzzled expression. They're people who make a living by gathering herbs in the mountains. But who are these dragon-seeking masters? I've never heard of them before. While holding Tan Xiu's arm, Shuiyu entered the elevator under the jealous gazes of countless people who looked at Tan Xiu. Then, she said, dragon-seeking masters are actually a kind of feng shui master who possesses a special method to find dragons and seal acupoints. This kind of people have profound attainments in feng shui and are best at finding mineral deposits. Rumor has it that this dragon-seeking master has done a lot of sensational things. I won't tell you the specifics, but you can meet him. Is he good at finding mineral deposits? Asked Tan Xiu with squinted eyes. Of course. He seems to be a world-famous geologist, said Shuiyu. Then we'll stay here for one more day. Tan Xiu nodded and said, all right, let's not talk about this anymore. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. How have you been recently? Are you tired from running around? No, I'm not tired at all. Shuiyu smiled and said, it's just that I often feel that I don't have enough funds, so I can't do anything. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, if you're short of money, then look for me. Your man lacks everything except money. How about this? I'll transfer 1 billion to you later. Just tell me if it's not enough. Pfft! Along with a burst of laughter, a discordant voice also sounded in the elevator. I've seen people who can brag, but I've never seen anyone who can boast to such a high degree. 1 billion? Why don't you say 10 billion? Tan Xiu and Shuiyu glanced at each other and then looked at the only outsider in the elevator at the same time. It was a young man in a suit and tie with a briefcase under his elbow. He was the one who just spoke with sarcasm and ridicule. How should I address you, brother? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. The young man rolled his eyes and looked like he didn't want to talk to him. However, his eyes swept over Shuiyu's snow-white neck and face before he finally said, my surname is Wu and given name is Kuan. I should be a few years older than you, so you won't suffer a loss if you call me brother. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and didn't talk to Wu Kuan again. When the elevator reached the 4th floor, he was pulled by Shuiyu to leave the elevator. After passing through a long corridor, they entered a luxurious room. I know that young man, Tan Xiu. He's a very persistent salesman. He seems to come to this hotel every day to talk about a big business deal, and every day he comes to block a boss. Shuiyu gently took off Tan Xiu's coat and smilingly said. Chapter 873. Tang Xiu comfortably sat on the sofa and said with a smile on the corner of his mouth, did you see that I'm a bit interested in that brat? That's right. His fate is very interesting, said Shuiyu with a smile. It's indeed interesting. Tan Xiu chuckled. He's a born rebel. His life is bumpy, yet he has to go against the current. If he doesn't die prematurely, he'll become an ambitious and ruthless character in the future. He only has 7 days left to live at most. Shuiyu shook her head. You divined? Tan Xiu was surprised. I had nothing to do, so I divined a bit, said Shuiyu with a smile. What's funny is that his recent disaster is because of his mouth. Tan Xiu sighed, silence is golden for many people. If they can't control their mouths, I'm afraid they'll bring disaster upon themselves. Forget it. Let's not talk about him. How's your study of the 6 starlight array? Do you have the confidence to crack the array alone? No. Shuiyu shook her head. My comprehension of the 6 starlight array is less than 20%. However, I'm confident that we can get the immortal trove if we go to Kana's Longquan Bay. Why are you so confident? Tan Xiu was surprised. I have confidence in you. Shuiyu chuckled. From what I know about you, you won't waste your time to go to Kana's if you don't have enough confidence. Have you thoroughly comprehended the 6 starlight array? I don't have 100% assurance. Tan Xiu chuckled. I must go to the 6 starlight array to investigate and comprehend it. If our luck is good, we can open the immortal trove and see what's inside. I performed a divination after receiving your call yesterday. Shuiyu smiled. But the situation is still the same as before. I can't figure out your situation. Tang Xiu chuckled and said, it's fine if you can't calculate it. It's good if we can get the immortal trove, but it doesn't matter if we can't. That's right. Come with me to a place after this trip to Kana's. Perhaps we'll need to live and cultivate there for a long time. Where? Asked Shuiyu curiously. 9 Dragons Island, answered Tan Xiu. Shuiyu's eyes lit up and she quickly asked, is it the place where Ancestor wants to live in seclusion? The island you bought overseas? Tan Xiu said with a smile, that's right, that's the place. The reconstruction of 9 Dragons Island was supposed to be completed in early June, but the construction was delayed due to the weather. However, it won't be long. At most, we'll be able to move in within 2 months. I'll go with you. Shuiyu nodded. On the 5th floor of the Changcheng Hotel, in the corridor covered with a red carpet, Li Chang leaned against the wall of the corridor, his eyes staring at the door of the guest room opposite. This was the 9th time he came here to wait for the owner of the machinery factory. In order to sell the mechanical parts produced by the company, he had racked his brains. I'm still short of $90,000. As long as this deal is done, I'll be able to get the money. When the time comes, we'll fire that bastard from the company. Li Chang recalled the shameless face of the manager of the company's sales department and felt disgusted inside. He had fired a total of 8 bosses over the years. Every time before he fired the boss, he was able to make a profit and leave. Unfortunately, his family had a bottomless pit of money. The medical expenses of hundreds of thousands of yuan a year made him live in an abyss of suffering. Suddenly, he remembered the guy he had just met in the elevator. He was very clear about the concept of 1 billion yuan. In this day and age, those who could casually take out 1 billion yuan were all big shots in the business world. But that brat, it's really a pity for that Belle. Why did she find such an unreliable guy? Alas, this bro is already taken. Otherwise, I could have given that Belle a good future. Li Chang smiled. As the thought flashed in his mind, he saw the door of the guest room opposite opened. 2 enchanting women with long legs and slender waists came out from the inside. The owner of the machinery factory, whom he had been waiting for 9 days, came out with a red face. Boss Huang. Li Chang hurriedly greeted him. Upon seeing Li Chang, the smile on the glowing Boss Huang's face suddenly froze. After 2 seconds of sluggishness, he immediately took a step back and then forcefully closed the door from the inside. Bam! Looking at the closed door, Li Chang's heart was filled with anger. The 2 smiling women stopped and looked at Li Chang's constantly changing expression. One of them suddenly laughed and said, "Hey handsome, do you want this younger sister to accompany you? The price is absolutely fair, and I'll definitely serve you better than that Boss Huang inside." Scram! Li Chang panted heavily and took a step back, leaning on the wall again as he shouted. The woman angrily glared at Li Chang. She turned around and scolded, "You're just a pauper, yet you're still pretending. Rich people are rolling in bed with women in their rooms, while the pauper is just anxiously staying outside. Let's go, I'm so unlucky. I thought I could do more business here." Pauper. Li Chang was deeply stimulated by this word. He looked at the back of the 2 women twisting their slender waists as they left and waved his fists. He also liked beautiful women, but he had his own bottom line. It was enough for him to fall in love once in his life, find a woman, get married, and live a stable life. Looking for a woman. Spending money to visit a prostitute. If he had the money, he might as well buy some delicious food and drinks for his wife at home. He might as well buy a few more boxes of medicine for his wife. Creak, the opposite door was opened again and Boss Huang appeared in front of Li Chang. With a gloomy expression and a newly lit cigarette between his fingers, he said, "Come in." Li Chang looked happy and hurriedly entered the room. After closing the door from the inside, he looked at the discarded toilet paper on the floor and felt a bit disgusted. "Help me clean up the room." Boss Huang turned around and walked into the bathroom. Soon after, the sound of running water came from inside. Li Chang raised his fist at the closed bathroom door and quickly picked up the toilet paper on the floor and threw it into the trash can. He then cleaned the room and even made the bed. Afterward, he went to the corner and sat down, waiting for Boss Huang to come out. Half an hour later, Boss Huang came out of the bathroom with a bath towel wrapped around his waist. He looked at the situation in the room and nodded with satisfaction, "Not bad. It's clean and tidy." Li Chang got up and said with an obsequious smile, "It's my honor to serve you, Boss Huang. I can't wait to help you clean the place every day these days." Boss Huang chuckled and said, "You're really eloquent. I called you here not to give you any business, but to talk about something else." Li Chang's expression slightly changed, but he still replied politely, "Please do, Boss Huang." Boss Huang walked to the sofa and took a seat. He shot a deep look at Li Chang and said, "You know my situation. I'm in the machinery business. Are you interested in working for my company?" "Huh?" Li Chang was caught off guard by Boss Huang's words. After hesitating for a while, he let out a dry smile and said, "It's my honor to be chosen by you, Boss Huang. But I have my own difficulties and can't leave my current company for the time being." Boss Huang raised his brows and asked, "Is it because of your company's contract?" Li Chang shook his head and said, "No, it's because I'm short of money and I need it urgently. There was only half a month left until the next month's salary and commission. If I don't get that money, I won't be able to take my wife to the surgery." Boss Huang was surprised. "You want to take your wife to the surgery? What happened to her?" Li Chang said bitterly, "Heart disease." Boss Huang went silent for a while. He lit up another cigarette and took a few puffs before he asked, "How much more do you need?" Li Chang said, 90,000. Boss Huang widened his eyes and said in disbelief, "Your monthly income is around 90,000 yuan. Li Chang said with a helpless expression, "If I can get this business done with you, 90,000 yuan won't be a problem. But if we can't take down your order, I'm afraid we'll fall short." Boss Huang gave him a thumbs up and praised, "It's true that talented people will emerge in every generation, and each of them will lead the way for hundreds of years. It was amazing that a small salesperson could get such a high income in a month. I'm starting to think that you're a talent. Of course, I've also begun to pay attention to your company. Even a salesperson can make so much money, so your company's business must be very good." "Boss Huang, I'll be frank with you," said Li Chang with a straight face. "1/3 of my company's business is all done by me." "1/3? How many salespeople does your company have?" asked Boss Huang curiously. "More than 20, answered Li Chang. Boss Huang was shaken inwardly. He looked at Li Chang incredulously and said, "More than 20 salespeople, yet you can get 1/3 of the business? Amazing. That's really amazing. How about this? I'll give you a base salary of 10,000 yuan every month, plus commission and year-end bonus. As for the 90,000 yuan you need, I can pay you in advance. How about it?" Li Chang frowned and said, "Boss Huang, I can get 90,000 yuan as long as I get this order from you. What if I don't give you this order?" Boss Huang shook his head. "Then I'm afraid you can only wait until next month," said Li Chang. Boss Huang casually threw the cigarette to Li Chang and lightly said, "Let's change the method. I can give you 500,000 yuan in advance for an annual salary of 1 million yuan. Of course, I can terminate the contract at any time if your business doesn't reach my satisfaction. You can forget about getting the remaining 500,000 yuan. How about it? He looked at Boss Huang and asked, I want to know why you value me so much. You probably don't know much about me, do you? Besides, you haven't gotten any proof of what I just said. Just because you can block me every day and persist for 9 days in a row, said Boss Huang. I like your resilience, said Boss Huang. Chapter 874. The morning sun shone on the earth, shining through the gap of the French window and onto the big Simmons bed. Last night's craziness caused a problem in Tan Xiu's usually fixed biological clock. He woke up at 10 a.m. and was aroused by the smell of food. It smells so good. Tan Xiu propped up his arms and sat up. He looked at the small round table in the room, which was filled with all kinds of delicacies. Shuiyu had changed her clothes, but it was still a long white dress with long black and soft hair draped over her shoulders. Today, she even wore a necklace and earrings, as well as a platinum bracelet on her wrist, making her look even more beautiful and alluring. Shuiyu smiled and said, You're awake. The waiter just delivered the food and I went out to buy you some toiletries. Quickly wash up and let's have dinner together. We've been tossing and turning for most of the night last night. I'm so tired that I don't even want to move now. How come you don't look tired at all? On the contrary. Shuiyu's pretty face blushed and she coquettishly said, What nonsense are you talking about? Hurry up and wash up. Tan Xiu burst into laughter. He lifted the thin quilt and got off the bed, quickly entering the bathroom. There was a saying from the ancients that there were only exhausted cows, but no land that was badly plowed. Tang Xiu had experienced it many times and could be said to have thoroughly understood the meaning behind this sentence. After washing up, Tan Xiu sat down and ate a few mouthfuls of food. Then, he asked, When will the two you mentioned arrive? They should be tonight, answered Shuiyu. What's your plan today since they will arrive tonight? Tan Xiu nodded. I've arranged the business before you came, so they will continue their work. Shuiyu chuckled. So, I have nothing else to do today, so I'll go wherever you say. Tan Xiu thought for a while and said, If so, then let's steal some leisure time and stroll around Chang City. To be honest, this is my first time coming to Chang City. Alright. Shuiyu didn't like shopping, but that was because she didn't have Tan Xiu to accompany her. Now that she heard Tan Xiu's suggestion, she suddenly felt a bit excited inside. After dinner. As soon as the two of them left the hotel, they saw the young man they met in the elevator yesterday. The other party obviously also saw Tan Xiu and Shuiyu. He looked at Shuiyu with some amazement and immediately gave Tan Xiu a contemptuous look. This brat. Tan Xiu could not help but shake his head with a smile. He lied to you yesterday. He's not called Wu Kun at all. His real name is Li Chang, said Shuiyu in a low voice. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment and then rolled his eyes. He was at a loss whether to cry or laugh as he said, This guy is really a weirdo. He can even lie about his name. Forget it, ignore him, let's go out for a stroll. Is the Bai Square nearby? It's indeed the Bai Square, said Shuiyu with a chuckle. There's also Qingshan Road and a pedestrian street nearby. You have to be careful of your wallet today. No problem, I have money. After Tan Xiu said this, he realized that Li Chang and a fat middle-aged man were approaching. Sure enough. Just as his voice faded away, he heard Li Chang's mocking and ridiculing voice, Women are all devils who spend money. Don't brag so much now. It'll be shameful if you don't have enough money to pay the bill. Humph. Tan Xiu raised his middle finger and loudly said, I'll take your words as envy and jealousy, so I won't stoop to your level. Anyways, let's go shopping, baby. Shuiyu smiled and held Tan Xiu's arm as they left under Li Chang's rolling eyes. Boss Huang stared blankly at Shueyu's back as she left. Only after Tan Xiu and Shueyu had gone far away did he sober up from the amazement. He hurriedly looked at Li Chang and asked, "Do you know them, little Li?" "No, I don't." Li Chang shook his head. Boss Huang furrowed his brows and grumbled with dissatisfaction, "You obviously had some communication just now. How come you don't know them?" Li Chang was a smooth talker. From the way Boss Huang looked at Shueyu, he understood why the latter wanted to inquire about their identities. He immediately let out a hollow laugh and said, "I really don't know them, boss. I just met them in the elevator yesterday. That brat said he would give that woman 1 billion yuan, so I laughed at him a few times. Never did I expect that I would meet them here again today." Boss Huang rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, "Little Li, since you promised to work for me, then I'll give you a test. If you can help me get that woman's contact information, I can directly make you the deputy manager of the company's sales department. How about it?" What a pervert. Li Chang cursed inwardly, yet he still put on an obsequious smile and said, "Don't worry, boss. I guarantee that I'll complete the task. Anyways, let's go to my company first to discuss the cooperation. After all, I'm going to be your man. I've also lowered the previous company's discount price to the lowest, which will save you a lot of money. Go get that woman's contact information first." Boss Huang shook his head. "Hurry up, I'll be waiting for you at the hotel." Li Chang hesitated for a moment before he reluctantly nodded and quickly chased after Tan Xiu and Shueyu. At dusk, Tan Xiu and Shueyu walked out of Fortune Square with a lot of things in their hands. Not counting the many things they put into their interspatial rings while no one was paying attention to them in the mall. "Tan Xiu, that man is still secretly following us," Shueyu whispered while standing on the street. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he said, "Let's follow him. As long as he's not tired, we'll just take it as walking a dog." "That's right, are you tired? I already told O to come here." "It's because it won't be easy, that's why I told you to drive slowly and keep him hanging like this," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Get him here when we arrive at the place. I want to ask him what's his purpose in following us all day." A few kilometers later, Li Chang, who was sweating profusely and tired to the point that his legs were almost like lead, finally managed to intercept a taxi after looking forward to the stars and the moon. After he got in, he pointed to the Mercedes-Benz G-Class AMG in front and shouted, "Master, help me, catch up with that Mercedes-Benz in front." The taxi driver hesitated. Li Chang gasped for a few breaths and said aloud, "I'll pay you. Is 500 yuan enough? I'll add more if it's not enough." It's enough. The taxi driver hurriedly nodded and sped up. However, a minute later, Li Chang suddenly found that the speed of the car in front was also increasing by a lot, almost reaching the critical point of the street speed limit. At this moment, he was smart enough to finally realize that the other party was deliberately making him chase. He was playing with him. Bastard! Li Chang clenched his fists and angrily cursed. The taxi driver was stunned. An angry look appeared on his face as he turned to glare at Li Chang and said, "Little brother, what's the matter with you? I've already sped up. Why the hell are you cursing me?" Li Chang's expression turned stiff. He immediately suppressed his anger and helplessly said, "I'm not cursing you, master. I'm cursing the people in the Mercedes-Benz in front. That bastard. Forget it. Please help me follow them and see where they are going." The taxi driver's anger dissipated after hearing it. He looked at Li Chang with some sympathy and said, "Little brother, did your girlfriend get abducted by the rich man in the car in front?" Alas, women these days. They're too damn realistic. I advise you to give up this materialistic woman as soon as possible, else you'll be cuckolded even if you get married in the future. Chapter 875. Li Chang, who was already full of grievances, nearly spurted out a mouthful of blood upon hearing the taxi driver's words. He could no longer suppress his anger and exasperatedly shouted, "Will you die if you shut up and don't talk? You don't even know what's going on, yet you're talking nonsense here." The taxi driver didn't get angry. Instead, he shook his head sympathetically and sighed, all right. I won't talk. It's human nature to be angry when encountering this kind of thing. I've earned your money, so it's fine for you to vent your anger. I won't talk anymore." Li Cheng furiously glared at the taxi driver and then furiously looked at the Mercedes-Benz SUV in front. He wished he could cut that pretentious bastard into pieces. Bowen Restaurant. The restaurant looked very ordinary from the outside. It was a 3-story building with a classical style and a lot of red lanterns. Under the golden signboard, 4 waitresses in red cheongsam stood on both sides, while several security guards strolled around. "Welcome." After Tan Xiu took Shui Yu's hand and got out of the Mercedes-Benz, the waitresses respectfully bowed and greeted them. A woman in her 40s, who was still attractive, hurriedly ran out from the inside. After seeing Tan Xiu and Shui Yu, she hesitated for a moment before her eyes fell on Shui Yu and asked, "Are you Miss Shui?" "That's me." Shui Yu nodded. The woman hurriedly took out 2 name cards and handed them to Shui Yu and Tan Xiu, saying, "Welcome, both of you. I'm the manager of this restaurant. You can call me Manager Hu. Elder Chang and Elder Bao have arrived and are waiting in the VIP lounge. Do you know Chang Pinggui and Bao Anil?" Shui Yu was surprised. "They are our restaurant's distinguished guests. They come to Chang City every 2 years and solve their food problems here," said Manager Hu. "Also, my husband is Elder Chang's disciple." "Your husband is also an herb gatherer?" Shui Yu was surprised. Manager Hu's expression slightly changed and became more respectful. She nodded and said, "Yes, my husband is indeed an herb gatherer." "Lead the way, then." Shui Yu nodded. Quickly. Under the guidance of Manager Hu, Tan Xiu and Shui Yu arrived at the VIP lounge on the 3rd floor. To their surprise, there were a few other people in the VIP lounge other than the 2 old men. One of them was a skinny middle-aged man who stood obediently behind the 2 old men. The other 2 were an old lady with a head full of white hair and a handsome young man. "Eh!" The handsome young man exclaimed in surprise when he saw Tan Xiu and Shui Yu coming in. However, his expression turned a bit unsightly as he strode towards Tan Xiu and Shui Yu. With an overbearing manner, he looked at Shui Yu and asked loudly, "Who is he, Shui Yu?" Tan Xiu shot a strange look at Shui Yu and smilingly asked, "Do you know him?" Shui Yu just glanced at the handsome young man and lightly said, "I know, but I'm not familiar with him." The handsome young man's face turned dark and he angrily said, "I've been pursuing you for a while, Shui Yu. How can you say that we're not familiar? Boy, who are you? Let go of Shui Yu, else don't blame me for being impolite." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "I see. You should be one of Shui Yu's pursuers, right? It's no wonder, though. This woman of mine is as beautiful as a fairy, so the number of men pursuing her is as many as the carps crossing the river. All right, don't threaten me like a child. Even if you shout yourself hoarse, it won't change the fact that she's my woman." Shui Yu seemed to be very happy that Tan Xiu admitted that she was his woman in front of others. A smile appeared on her beautiful face as she softly said, "He's right. He's my only man. So, Mr. Liu, please conduct yourself with dignity and don't pester me anymore." The handsome young man looked at Shui Yu and Tan Xiu with disbelief. Just as he was about to speak loudly, the white-haired old lady shouted in a deep voice, "Little Meng, come back." The handsome young man opened his mouth, but he seemed to be afraid of the white-haired old lady. He angrily glared at Tan Xiu before he turned around and walked to the white-haired old lady's side and sat down. Shui Yu and Tan Xiu came to the front of them and watched the 2 old men get up from the sofa. Then, he lightly smiled and said, "You 2 must be the herb gatherer, Elder Chang, and the dragon-seeking master, Bao Anil, right? I'm Shui Yu, and this is my man, Tan Xiu." Chang Pingue and Bao Anil exchanged glances and immediately nodded to Shuiyu in a friendly manner. Their eyes then landed on Tan Xiu. This. Little brother Tang, you look a bit familiar, no? Have we met somewhere before? Chang Pingue curiously asked. Fortunately, Elder Chang, you're not a woman, Tan Xiu said with a smile, else, I would have thought that I'm too handsome, so some girls are finding excuses to hit on me. I'm sure this is the first time we've met. Also, let me introduce myself. I'm Tan Xiu from the Magnificent Tang Corporation. The Magnificent Tang Corporation? Chang Pingue stared blankly for a moment. His eyes suddenly turned saucer with disbelief. Even his body trembled a few times as he said with a trembling voice, You're the famous young divine Dr. Tan Xiu in the Chinese medicine circle. The Magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. I never thought that Elder Chang would have heard of me. This junior is truly honored. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's acknowledgement, Chang Pingue immediately rubbed his hands excitedly and said, You're flattering me. It's my honor to be able to meet Tang. Divine Dr. Tang. There was no one in the country who didn't know about the famous young divine doctor, Tang Xiu. We herb gatherers are the ones who want to know you the most, divine Dr. Tang. We hope that we can collect precious herbs and use you to cure illnesses and save lives. Bao Anil also looked surprised. He looked at Tan Xiu and said, I've also heard of the young divine Dr. Tan Xiu's great name. It's really better to see it once than to hear it 100 times. You're really a young talent and amazing. It's no wonder that the venerable successor has fallen in love with you. Are you talking about the old blind, Elder Bao? Tan Xiu said with a smile. Bao Anil stared blankly for a moment before the surprise on his face disappeared and was replaced with a bit of anger. He frowned and said, I hope you can show some respect to the venerable, Tan Xiu. Besides, since the venerable's descendant is your woman, it stands to reason that you should also address her as the venerable ancestor. Please don't say that, Elder Bao, said Shuiyu hurriedly. Even if the venerable ancestor personally came before Tan Xiu, she doesn't want Tan Xiu to address her as such. As a matter of fact, it was the venerable ancestor's request for Tan Xiu to address her as old blind. Tan Xiu patted Shuiyu's shoulder and smilingly said, You're right, Elder Bao. I should indeed address the old blind as the venerable ancestor according to our relationship. Please forgive me, Elder Bao. I used to address her as old blind and forgot to change it. The venerable ancestor requested it? Asked Bao Anil, dumbfounded. How is that possible? Tan Xiu smiled and didn't explain further. Instead, he looked at the white-haired old lady sitting on the sofa and asked with a smile, Tan Xiu has seen Senior. How should I address you, Senior? The white-haired old lady observed Tan Xiu and smilingly said, You can call me Old Cripple. Old Cripple. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment. At this moment, he suddenly felt an aura like a breeze blowing over and instantly drilled into his mind. Nearly in a flash, his spiritual sense suddenly erupted and smashed into the invading spiritual sense. After driving it out of his mind with a crushing force, he continued to pursue it. Stop, divine Dr. Tang. The white-haired old lady's body shook violently and she hurriedly screamed before coughing up a few mouthfuls of blood. Tan Xiu retracted his spiritual sense and frowned as he coldly said, Old Cripple, there should be no enmity between us, right? You actually dared to invade my sea of consciousness with your spiritual sense. That's a capital crime. Death your sister, the handsome young man suddenly jumped up, but a shadow flashed in front of him. A loud slap was heard as his body flew upside down and heavily smashed into the corner 7 meters away. Tan Xiu returned to his original spot and indifferently said, Be careful with your words. The white-haired old lady stared at Tan Xiu in disbelief. She tremblingly got up and limped a few steps toward Tan Xiu. Then, she respectfully said, This old cripple has no intention to offend you. I just felt that someone who can make that old blind appreciate must be extraordinary, so I rashly probed you. Chapter 876. Li Chang was so angry that he hurriedly caught up with him. He didn't even think about it and slammed the door open to accuse Tan Xiu. But now, after Tan Xiu's question, his anger was swirling in his belly and he couldn't vent it out. What should he say? Could it be that he was stalking her? He was flustered. That's right. Li Chang's face was flushed and he wished he could find a place to bury himself. Standing stiffly on the spot for a while, he coughed twice under everyone's strange eyes. He braced himself and said, I have something to look for you. No, I have something to look for her. Don't worry, said Tan Xiu casually. You can talk about it later. Let's talk about how I played you first, shall we? Li Chang felt awkward inside. A sense of powerlessness arose inside his heart when he saw Tan Xiu latching on to the matter of playing tricks on him. However, he was still smart and said with a dry smile, Don't lower yourself to my level, tyrant. The reason why I said that to you was to find a reason for myself to come in. I'm looking for this, your woman. I really have something to discuss. Tan Xiu waved his hand and smilingly said, This reason may be far-fetched, but I can reluctantly accept it. Say it. Why are you looking for her? Don't tell me you want to pursue her. Else, I don't mind beating someone up and making you kneel and vomit blood. Someone? Li Chang stared blankly for a moment. He then saw a handsome young man with a red and swollen face and bloodstains on the corner of his mouth. His heart suddenly quivered. He had seen the character of a playboy. Many of the second generations of rich and officials all had this kind of common problem. He was just doing it for the sake of business. He didn't want the business to fail and get beaten up. Brother, if I remember correctly, you're called Tan Xiu, right? Tang of the magnificent Tang Corporation, Xiu as in self-cultivation, right? This name is really great. At first glance, I can tell that you're a cultured and handsome man. Actually, I'm looking for this, your woman, because I know someone covets her beauty and wants to do something bad to her. I'm actually doing this out of good intentions. I just want to inform you guys. The corners of Tan Xiu's mouth curled up as he asked with a smile, Then can you tell me, who is it that is plotting against my woman? Li Chang dryly smiled and said, My new boss is also that old pervert who lives in the Chang City Hotel. You don't know this, but in order to make things difficult for me, he forced me to ask this, your woman, for her contact information. He even threatened me, saying that if I didn't get your woman's contact information, he wouldn't give me the order, let alone let me work at his company. Actually, I agreed to work at his company mainly as a stopgap measure, so that I could sign the business contract first and then get him to scram as far away as possible. Tan Xiu smiled and asked, Do you think I will let my woman give you her contact? Li Chang shook his head and said, Under normal circumstances, absolutely not. Then tell me about the abnormal circumstances, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Li Chang's eyes lit up. He quickly organized his words inwardly and said, The first time I saw you, I knew that you're a good-looking and kind-hearted local tycoon. I said that you were acting cool before, but it was because I was jealous inside. Brother Tang, you and sister-in-law are not locals, right? How about you help me? Let's just pretend and casually say a few words. After I sign the contract and get the high commission, I'll be the host and treat you and sister-in-law to a big meal. I can even be your tour guide to stroll around Chang City, enjoying the good mountains, rivers, and scenery, as well as feeling the good people, good deeds, and good customs here. Pfft, Shuiyu couldn't help but burst into laughter. She smiled and touched Tan Xiu's arm, saying, I think I can help. Tan Xiu nodded with a smile and said, You're quite eloquent and smart. It should be the 9th time if he changes jobs, right? It should be the 9th time if he really wants to go to a new company, said Shuiyu with a smile. You're Li Chang, right? Tan Xiu said with satisfaction. It's not like I can't help you, but I have a condition. If you can promise me, we'll go back to the hotel together later. What condition do you have, brother? Asked Li Chang cautiously. Agree to work for the other party's company. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Sign the contract and I'll give you 2 months to swindle this company for me. Afterward, pack up and come to me. You'll work for me later. What? Li Chang was dumbfounded. Countless thoughts were swirling in his mind just now. He didn't expect that Tan Xiu would put forward such an absurd request. What's wrong? Tan Xiu said with a playful smile. You don't agree? Li Chang probed. Brother, serving you and working for you is just a trifling matter. It's just that I don't get it. Why do you want me to change jobs to a new company? And you want to swindle the other party? Is it because the other party has ideas about sister-in-law and you're angry? There are many men in the world who have ideas about my woman. Tan Xiu said with a smile, I'm afraid I would have died of exhaustion if I had to deal with each and every one of them. You don't need to know the reason. There are only 2 paths in front of you now, agree or refuse. Li Chang hesitated for a while and asked, What business do you do, brother? The Magnificent Tang Corporation, Tan Xiu said with a smile. The Magnificent Tang Corporation? Li Chang was dumbfounded. He had just mentioned this company. Could it be that the other party remembered what he just said? Was he joking with him? Tan Xiu seemed to have seen through Li Chang's mind and said with a smile, Don't let your imagination run wild. I promise I'm not playing with you this time. I'm Tan Xiu, the owner of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. If you agree and can swindle the new company miserably in 2 months, then I welcome you to join my company. Li Chang quickly grabbed his mobile and searched the name, Tan Xiu, on the internet. Soon, he found countless news reports about Tan Xiu, as well as Tan Xiu's photos. Heavens! It's really him. Li Chang gulped down his saliva and looked up with a dumbfounded expression. It took him a long time to suppress the shock and said with a bit of flattery, Tang. Brother, you're such a big shot, yet you're actually interested in an ordinary small fry like me? It's my business whether I like you or not, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Whether you agree or not, it's your business. Alright, I've said what I need to say, so it's your turn now. However, you need to remember one thing. If you promise me today and go back on your words, I'm afraid you'll end up very miserably. It'll be so miserably that you can't even imagine it. Li Chang hesitated. He originally planned to collect enough money to do a small business after his wife's operation and strive to expand his business and become a boss in the future. But, it was the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Not only was it the company with the fastest development in the business world, but it also had a huge space for breakthroughs in the future. He even dared to pat his chest and guarantee that if Tan Xiu wanted to, the Magnificent Tang Corporation would go out of the country and expand its business all over the world. It would definitely become one of the world's top 500 companies in the future. No. It wouldn't be a problem for it to become one of the world's top 100 companies. Li Chang eagerly looked at Tan Xiu and asked, Brother Tang, what arrangement will you have for me if I join the Magnificent Tang Corporation? You'll start from the bottom first, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Li Chang's heart sank. You'll be the deputy sales manager of the Magnificent Tang Corporation first, continued Tan Xiu. Perhaps you'll have the opportunity to be the general sales manager of all the products of the Magnificent Tang Corporation when your qualifications and abilities are higher. I agree. Li Chang's heart was stirred up again as he replied with a resolute and decisive tone. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and waved his hand. Go to the side and wait. We still have something to deal with here. Shuiyu, I'll leave this place to you. Shuiyu let out a faint smile and looked at Chang Pinggui and Bao Anil, who had a strange expression on their faces. She then said with a smile, Elder Chang, Elder Bao, I'm sure both of you are aware of the reason why I invited you here. As the things I do get bigger and bigger, I need more and more people with abilities. One of you is a famous herb gatherer in the Chinese medicine field, while the other is a famous dragon-seeking master in the feng shui field. If you can promise to help me, I'll give you any conditions you want. This, The main reason why Chang Pingue and Bao Anil came to Chang City this time was to see the descendants of the legendary celestial immortal. They also wanted to get a chance to see that celestial immortal. They were, after all, old people and didn't need many things. Money, power, and beauty were not attractive to them at all. Therefore, they didn't come here to work for Shuiyu at all. Upon seeing their expressions, Tan Xiu realized that they didn't want to agree. After giving it a thought, he said, "If you two agree, then I'll give you a good fortune." Chang Pingue and Bao Anil exchanged glances. Then, Bao Anil immediately asked, "What good fortune?" Tan Xiu pointed to the white-haired old lady and said, "The good fortune I'll give you is definitely not lower than her achievements. As for the higher level, you'll need to work hard on your own." Bao Anil's body shook and he hurriedly asked, "You mean?" Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and lightly said, "It's best if you understand and don't say it out loud." Chang Pingue and Bao Anil were ecstatic. They had guessed Tan Xiu's identity from the invisible exchange between Tan Xiu and the Lu family's ancestor, Yang Shi. They naturally didn't want to miss such an opportunity at this moment. Nearly at the same time, the two quickly nodded in agreement. Yang Shi stared at Chang Pingue and Bao Anil in a daze and envy filled her heart. Others might not be aware of how powerful Tan Xiu was, but she was perfectly aware of it. She had just used her spiritual sense to peep at Tan Xiu and felt Tan Xiu's powerful spiritual sense that suffocated her. Furthermore, Chang Pingue and Bao Anil were now nearly 60 years old, yet Tan Xiu dared to guarantee that they would be stronger than her in the future. This showed that Tan Xiu was absolutely unfathomable. If he was able to obtain this opportunity, then he would be, thinking up to there, divine Dr. Tang, if I also want to work for you, for your woman, do you think I can go to the next level? Asked Yang Shi hurriedly. Chapter 877. Tan Xiu looked at Yang Shi with a teasing expression. This old lady was at least 100 years old, yet she actually wanted to go a step further. It was indeed a rare thing. However, he didn't rush to refuse and instead lightly said, "If my guess is correct, you have a big family behind you, right? Give me 3 days. I'll be alone in 3 days without any worries," said Yang Shi immediately after hearing it. Tan Xiu fell into silence. Yang Shi's persistence and firmness touched his heart. When he was in the immortal world, he had encountered countless cultivators and immortals who abandoned their families and businesses for the sake of cultivation and becoming stronger. The great Tao was ruthless. Each and every one of the supremes who could overcome all obstacles and reach the top of the immortal world had to contend with people and the heavens to finally stand above hundreds of millions of races. Tan Xiu looked at Shuiyu and asked, "Will you accept it or not?" Shuiyu didn't immediately answer Tan Xiu's question, but looked at Yang Shi and asked, "Can you tell me what you know?" "I know Chinese medicine, and I have no problem with medicinal herbs. I also know feng shui and am very good at finding dragon acupoints. I also have a deep understanding of antiques and antiques. As for other aspects, I know a lot of things. I even have a superficial understanding of your heavenly mystery clan's divination technique." "Do you know my ancestor?" asked Shuiyu. "You should have heard of China's 4 imperfections, old blind, old cripple, old deaf, and old mute." Yang Shi nodded. "Your ancestor is called old blind, and I'm old cripple." Shuiyu's spirit was shaken, but then she forced a smile and said, "Senior, you and my ancestor are of the same generation." "How could I dare?" Yang Shi interrupted Shuiyu and seriously said, "I finally understand why that old blind has an intersection with divine Dr. Tang. Moreover, it's because of you that they have such a deep relationship. She played her cards well, but it's a pity that I don't have an outstanding descendant like you. The great Tao is ruthless, and it's all about competition. As long as I can fight for the present opportunity, I can go further and fly higher in the future." Shuiyu did not speak again. Instead, she turned to Tan Xiu and nodded. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "If that's the case, then you can help Elder Chang and Elder Bao take care of Shuiyu's business first. If you can really cut off your worldly worries and make some achievements, no matter how great old blind's achievements are in the future, you won't be any worse than her. Good, good, good. Madame Yang's aged face was filled with excitement as she said, good, 3 times in a row. The handsome young man, Lu Meng, had a shocked expression on his face. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that his grandmother would lower herself to work for someone else. What's strange, cousin brother? Asked Li Chang, confused. It's nothing. Lead the way. Tan Xiu retracted his gaze from the distance and shook his head. Suppressing his confusion, Li Chang took Tan Xiu and walked more than 10 meters away. Then, he suddenly asked, cousin brother, does that big brother who's driving not eat? They can solve the problem of eating and drinking by themselves, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Them? Li Chang stared blankly and keenly caught the word. In a flash, his eyes shifted to the distance and found that another car was slowly approaching at this moment. Although he was not a big shot, he had heard that many bodyguards wouldn't appear at the side of their protectors and would hide nearby instead. The one in that car should be the bodyguard who followed them, right? Truly worthy of being the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation. Li Chang sighed inwardly and led Tan Xiu into the antique building. At the reception desk. With an awkward expression, Li Chang looked at the expressionless middle-aged woman in front of him and helplessly said, Manager Wang, can you think of a way? We've come here, so you should arrange a place for us to eat, no? We really can't. Manager Wang shook her head and said, except for 2 boxes that have been booked by others, all the other boxes are full. You can either wait here or find another place to eat. Li Chang turned to look at Tan Xiu and helplessly said, Brother Tang, you see, you're Manager Wang, right? Tan Xiu chuckled. My family is also in the food and beverage business, so I'm very familiar with the situation of each restaurant. If my guess is correct, you should have reserved boxes here in case some big shots come and you don't have a place. You should have at least 2 of these reserved boxes, right? A surprised look flashed in Manager Wang's eyes as she stared at Tan Xiu, as though wanting to see what made Tan Xiu different from others. I just want to have a quiet dinner and taste the most famous Agricola delicacies in Chang City, said Tan Xiu again. I hope you can give us a box. Of course, don't tell me that you don't have any. If I really insist on having a meal here, I have a way to ask your boss to come out and arrange it. Manager Wang's expression moved and asked, How should I address you, sir? My surname is Tang, answered Tan Xiu. You're right, Mr. Tang. Manager Wang nodded and said, We do have 2 reserved boxes here, but I don't have the right to arrange the guests. Why don't you wait for a while? I'll report it to my boss. Is it necessary? Asked Tan Xiu. It's just a box. Our remaining 2 boxes are very special, said Manager Wang. All right. Let's hope it's quick, said Tan Xiu. In a VIP lounge in the deepest part of Green Lake Agricola, the owner, Song Donglai, was accompanying 2 guests. These 2 were his life and death friends and were also very powerful figures in the country. Old Ao, you called me before you came here. You said that you want to bring the Kruer python here and arrange the blood python array here. Is it true? Song Donglai looked at the 2 men and asked with a solemn expression. Ao Wei, who looked to be in his 40s and exuded a calm aura, nodded and said, That's right. We've actually brought the Kruer python here and put it in the lake outside. As long as you agree, we can arrange the blood python array tomorrow night. The trucks carrying the jade will arrive early tomorrow morning, said Gong Quan. Song Donglai stroked his chin. His eyes flickered as he pondered. After a long while, he slowly said, The Kruer python and the jade are not enough to arrange the blood python array. We also need 18 living people as blood sacrifices. Where are we going to find 18 living people? The 2 of us sent someone to spread the news before we came here, said Ao Wei in a deep voice. The Lien family should have heard about it by now, so I'm afraid they've already sent their people here. In the past, Us three brothers killed a lot of their people to prevent them from using the plague virus to harm others. All these years, the Lians have been tracking us and looking for us to take revenge. I don't think they'll let go of this opportunity. Song Donglai's spirit shook and he hurriedly said, our three families can indeed suppress the Lians if we join forces. But don't forget that you can't bring all the forces of your two families here. I was also punished by my family for what happened in the past, so the power I have now is only the men I've trained over the years. How are we going to stop the Lians if they launch a large-scale attack? I've considered this issue, so I invited a friend, said Ao Wei. Our odds of winning will be greatly increased as long as he can arrive in time tomorrow. Who is it? Asked Song Donglai hurriedly. Han Sen, answered Ao Wei. The traitor of the Han family? Exclaimed Song Donglai. A lunatic who suffered a cultivation deviation. Did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? How dare you invite him? Chapter 878. Ao Wei seemed to have guessed that Song Donglai would have such a reaction and solemnly said, Han Sen is indeed a lunatic in the eyes of many, a traitor who betrayed his family. However, in my opinion, he was both good and evil, just that his personality was a bit more eccentric. If others don't provoke him, he won't take the initiative to provoke others. Song Donglai didn't let go of the prejudice in his heart just because of Ao Wei's explanation. He said in a deep voice, our blood python array plan is very important. Unless we have a life and death friendship, we must never let outsiders get involved in it. Moreover, we're facing a great enemy. If something happens to him, we'll die miserably. Ao Wei calmly said, you and Gong Quan don't understand Han Sen because you have never interacted with him. My relationship with him isn't shallow. We can be considered friends who have gone through life and death together. So I can guarantee that not only can he help us, but he can also become friends with the two of you. Friends? Gong Quan had heard about the relationship between Ao Wei and Han Sen many times, but it was the first time for Song Donglai to hear about it. Just thinking about that lunatic made his scalp tingle. After a while, Song Donglai reluctantly nodded and said, Old Ao, since Han Sen is your friend, then I'll accompany you to gamble. If we lose, the three of us brothers will have to take a trip to the Yellow Springs. If we win the bet, we'll be able to become legendary existences. I'll bet. Gong Quan shouted resolutely. Ao Wei looked at his two brothers with satisfaction. A heroic feeling rose in his heart as he loudly said, nothing is 100% certain. I'm also gambling. To be able to gamble with these two brothers, regardless of whether I win or lose, the process will be extremely exciting. Ha ha ha, the three of them roared with laughter. Amidst the laughter, the door was knocked. A bald middle-aged man in a black suit pushed the door and entered. He looked at the trio who were gradually losing their laughter. He quickly came to Song Donglai and respectfully said, there's something I need to report to you, boss. What is it? Asked Song Donglai with raised brows. The bald man said, 2 guests came to our Agricola. One of them requested to dine in our reserved box because the box is full. Song Donglai's expression shifted and he inquired, who are they? How did he know we had reserved a private room? The bald man shook his head and said, I only know that his surname is Tang. He's 21 or 22 years old, and his family seems to be running a restaurant business. I'm not sure about anything else. Song Donglai angrily said, you don't even know the details of the other party, yet you came here to report this trivial matter? Are you out of your mind? Tell them that our reserved private rooms are all gone. Tell them to wait for other ordinary private rooms. If they don't want to wait, then they can scram. Yes. The bald man answered immediately. Reception area. Manager Wang's expression turned gloomy after she received the message from the intercom. She looked at Tan Xiao and said, I'm sorry. I just got a notice that the 2 private rooms we reserved are already occupied. Please wait for the other rooms. Of course, if you don't want to wait, you can go to other places to take a look. Tan Xiu frowned slightly. If he really couldn't eat here, it wouldn't matter to him. But after coming here, he felt that this place was a little special, so he was a little reluctant to leave now. After thinking for a moment, he took out his phone and dialed a number. Old cripple, there's something I need your help with since you haven't completely separated from the Lu family. I think the Lu family should be able to solve it given their status in Chang City. What instructions do you have for me, Divine Dr. Tang? Asked Mrs. Zhang. I'm in Green Lake Agricola now. Have you heard of this place? Asked Tan Xiu. I need to eat here, but there are no ordinary private rooms left. Do you have any way to make the owner of this place give me a private room? Give me a few minutes, Divine Dr. Tang, said Mrs. Zhang without hesitation. Manager Wang, who stood in front of Tan Xiu, was surprised when she heard what Tan Xiu said on the phone. The Lu family in Chang City. She knew that the first family in Chang City was the Lu family. Could it be that this young man surnamed Tang knew someone from the Lu family in Chang City? If that was the case, the boss might really have to use the reserved VIP room. Li Chang gave a thumbs up and praised, networking is really a good thing, Brother Tang. You've just subdued an old cripple, yet you can use it now. I'm really impressed. Work hard for me after you complete my task, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Maybe one day in the future, you can also be like me, accumulating connections everywhere. Li Chang rubbed his hands and grinned. As the saying goes, it's good to enjoy the shade under a big tree. You'll be my big backer in the future. Pfft. Manager Wang was quite amused and couldn't help but burst into laughter after listening to the conversation between the two men. In the innermost private room of the Agricola, Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and Gong Quan had just drunk 2 glasses of wine and were about to talk about serious matters when their mobile phones rang. When he took out his mobile and saw the caller's number, his expression slightly changed. He gestured to Ao Wei and Gong Quan to keep quiet, and then picked up the phone and smilingly said, "It's been a long time since we last met, Patriarch Lu. But why did you suddenly think of calling me?" "I don't call you for no reason, Boss Song. It's like this. My Lu family has a very distinguished guest who wants to dine in your Green Lake Agricola. Can you arrange a private room for him?" The voice of the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin, came out of the phone. Song Donglai stared blankly for a moment and then hurriedly said, "Since he's a distinguished guest of the Lu family, then he's also a distinguished guest of my Green Lake Agricola. I wonder when he will come. I'll go and greet him personally. His surname is Tang and he's already in your Green Lake Agricola." His surname is Tang. Song Donglai suddenly recalled the matter just reported by his subordinate. He immediately got up and said, "I think I know who he is, Patriarch Lu. Don't worry, I'll arrange it right away." "Thank you." He hung up the phone. With a strange expression, Song Donglai said, "It seems that a great figure has come to my place tonight. To be able to invite the patriarch of the Lu family, the #1 family in Chang City, to be his lobbyist, I'm afraid his background is really extraordinary." "Chang City's Lu family? That old cripple's family?" "That's right," answered Song Donglai with a solemn expression. Ao Wei nodded and said, "If that's the case, then go and arrange it. Chang City's Lu family is not ordinary, especially that old cripple, who has a deep friendship with the elders of many families in our occult sect." Song Donglai nodded without a word and quickly left the private room. Soon after, he appeared in front of Tan Xiu under the lead of the bald man. "Pardon my rudeness. This humble servant is Song Donglai, the owner of this Green Lake Agricola. I didn't know that Brother Tang would come and didn't welcome you. Also, I didn't know that Brother Tang is a distinguished guest of the Chang City's Lu family. I hope Brother Tang won't take offense if I neglected you," said Song Donglai politely. Tan Xiu casually glanced at him and indifferently said, "It's all right. Lead the way." Ugh, Song Donglai looked at Tan Xiu's expression and didn't say any more pleasantries. He could see the indifference on Tan Xiu's face and was a bit annoyed inside. However, he didn't want to bicker with Tan Xiu for the sake of the Lu family. He no longer spoke and directly led Tan Xiao and Li Chang to the VIP box. "Manager Wang, I'll leave the reception to you next." Having said that, Song Donglai cupped his fists toward Tan Xiao and Li Chang and then turned around to leave. Manager Wang, on the other hand, was secretly shocked after seeing Song Donglai's appearance. However, she was a slick person. How could she not see that Tan Xiao and her boss, Song Donglai, were unhappy? Naturally, she didn't dare to say anything. After suppressing her shock, she said, "The waiter will soon send the menu to you too. Please don't hesitate to ask if you need anything." "We got it. You can go back to your work," said Tan Xiao. Manager Wang nodded and quickly left the room. She was usually the one in charge of entertaining the guests in this VIP box. But the big boss was obviously unhappy today, so she couldn't flatter the two youngsters too much. Half an hour later, Tan Xiao and Li Chang ate to their heart's content. They felt that the wild game served in this green lake agricola really tasted good. However, Tan Xiao was still concerned about the special situation of this place, so he didn't drink any wine. "I'll stroll around by myself later," Tan Xiao thought inwardly. However, just as the thought flashed through his mind, the VIP box's door was knocked. As the door was pushed open, Zhang Shi came in from the outside along with a 50 or 60-year-old old man. "Divine Dr. Tang, did I disturb you?" asked Zhang Shi as she came in with a walking stick. Tan Xiao's eyes swept over her face and then fell on the old man, asking, "It's all right. Who is this?" "Divine Dr. Tang, this is my son, Lu Pinxin, the current patriarch of the Lu family," said Zhang Shi quickly. "Pinxin, why are you still in a daze? Quickly greet Divine Dr. Tang." Lu Pinxin hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Divine Dr. Tang." Tan Xiao nodded in response. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Thank you for tonight's matter. Your mother may have promised me that she will leave the Lu family, but I'll give you a promise here. If your Lu family is in trouble in the future and even your mother can't solve it, you can look for me." Lu Pinxin's eyes lit up and he immediately looked excited. He had learned about Tan Xiao's situation from his mother and knew that Tan Xiao was an unfathomable cultivator. For such a powerful person to say such words to him, it meant that he had made a promise to the Lu family. It was absolutely a great thing for the Lu family. "Thank you, Divine Dr. Tang. Is there anything else you need here?" Lu Pinxin said gratefully. "I'll arrange it right away." "No need." Tan Xiao shook his head. Lu Pinxin nodded and glanced at his mother. He then took half a step back and no longer spoke. "Divine Dr. Tang, how about you let Pinxin accompany you while you're in Chang City?" Zhang Shi couldn't help laughing and said, "You can order me to do anything." Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, "Forget it. In any case, he's the patriarch of the first family in Chang City. How can he follow me?" "All right, I appreciate your kindness. You can go back now." Chapter 879. In the innermost box of the Green Lake Agricola, Song Donglai, Ao Wei, and Gong Quan were discussing the arrangement of the blood python array, as well as how to arrange manpower to hunt and kill powerful enemies. They were well aware of what success or failure meant for the upcoming gamble. If they succeeded, they would be like a carp leaping over the dragon gate and soaring to the sky. If they failed, they would perish in the Yellow Springs. Just as the trio was discussing the details, the box's door was knocked again. The bald man pushed the door open and quickly came to Song Donglai, reporting in a low voice, "Boss, the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin, and the crippled old lady are here. Manager Wang just reported to me that they went to see the young man surnamed Tang in the VIP box." "What?" Song Donglai's spirit was shaken and disbelief filled his eyes. He was perfectly aware of the Lu family's influence in Chang City. No one in the entire city dared to provoke the Lu family because it was a behemoth. Not to mention the Lu family's patriarch, just the crippled old lady alone was more terrifying than the entire Lu family. But, why did they come to his green lake Agricola? Was it because of that young man surnamed Tang? Ao Wei and Gong Quan stood up with glints flashing in their eyes. They then said in a deep voice, "Since the old lady is here, we should go and greet her." That's right. She may not be a member of our occult sect, but she has a deep friendship with many of our sect's elders. She's a big shot we look up to, so we must pay her a visit to show our respect. The duo's eyes were bright with a bit of surprise. Song Donglai's expression moved and he suddenly said, "Do you think pulling the Lu family into our plan will be more advantageous than disadvantageous for us? Or will the disadvantages outweigh the advantages? How much do you know about the old lady of the Lu family?" asked Ao Wei. "I've been in Chang City for decades, but I know very little about it." Song Donglai shook his head. "But I know a lot about the Lu family's patriarch, Lu Pinxin." "Tell me about it," said Ao Wei. "Lu Pinxin is a man with great ambitions. He can be said to be very astute and very powerful," said Song Donglai. "I even suspect that his martial prowess is also very strong." Ao Wei pondered for a moment before he nodded and said, "Let's meet him first and then decide on our next course of action. But even if we want to pull the Lu family into our plan, the chances of them agreeing are very small. Forget it, don't complicate things." Saying, he sat down again. Obviously, he had given up the idea of paying respects to the elder ancestor of the Lu family. Song Donglai nodded silently and said, "If that's the case, then I'll go see them first. Also, I need to find out who that Tang brat is. How could he make the Lu family's ancestor and the Lu family's patriarch come to see him at the same time?" "Yes." Ao Wei and Gong Quan nodded. They were also curious as to what kind of deity the elder ancestor of the Lu family and the head of the Lu family came to meet at the same time. 2 minutes later, led by the bald middle-aged man, Song Donglai appeared in front of Mrs. Zhang and Lu Pinxin, who had just come out of the box. With a heart full of respect, he said, "I didn't know you and Clan Master Lu would come. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you." Madame Zhang asked in surprise, "You are?" Lu Pinxin knew Song Donglai, so he said with a smile, "He's the owner of this green lake Agricola, Boss Song. I called him before to arrange a private room for Divine Dr. Tang." Mrs. Zhang suddenly understood and a smile appeared on her face. She nodded and said, "Little Boss Song is quite good. It seems Divine Dr. Tang is quite satisfied with him." Song Donglai's expression shifted and he hurriedly asked, "Who is this Divine Dr. Tang?" "You don't even know the famous young Divine Dr. Tan Xiu, Boss Song?" Lu Pinxin said with a smile. "He has a very resounding reputation. Of course, he's also an honored guest of our Lu family." "Young Divine Doctor Tan Xiu." Song Donglai was taken aback for a moment. His pupils abruptly shrunk as a horrified look burst out from his eyes. His body swayed and he took 2 steps back in an instant. His complexion turned deathly pale. He remembered that the young Divine Dr. Tan Xiu also had another identity. He was a terrifying cultivator who once killed a lot of people from the occult sect in Kanas. He was also the god of death who sent his men to annihilate several occult families. Heavens! I actually treated him with a cold face just now. I'm doomed. I hope he's a magnanimous person and doesn't stoop to my level. Otherwise, I won't be able to escape death today even if I have 100 lives. Song Donglai's lips squirmed a few times. Dense beads of sweat appeared on his forehead as he said with difficulty, "Are you really sure that he's the famous young Divine Dr. Tan Xiu in the Chinese medicine industry?" Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin exchanged glances. After they noticed Song Donglai's unusual expression, Lu Pinxin asked with a confused expression, "Boss Song, you seem to be afraid of Divine Dr. Tang, no?" "He's indeed the young Divine Dr. Tan Xiu, and also the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation." Song Donglai reached out to support the wall and revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Then, he said with a trembling voice, "It's over." I didn't recognize him just now and looked down on him when I received him. If he blames me, I'll be miserable. Don't worry, Boss Song. Lu Pinxin said with a smile, "It's my first time seeing Divine Dr. Tang, but I still know his character. Divine Dr. Tang is open-minded and kind. He won't get angry because you didn't pay attention to him, nor will he do anything unfriendly to you. Kind and kind." Song Donglai suppressed the fear in his heart and bitterly said, "Patriarch Lu, I wouldn't be so afraid if that Divine Dr. Tang was really a kind person. In the eyes of the occult sect's people, he's simply a god of slaughter, a living evil star." Lu Pinxin was startled. He turned around and found that his mother, Zhang Shi, also looked surprised. He immediately asked curiously, "What happened? How did Divine Dr. Tang get such a fierce reputation?" Song Donglai looked around and found that no one was paying attention to them. Then, he lowered his voice and bitterly said, "Haven't the two of you heard about the big incident that happened in the occult sect 6 months ago? Many family members were massacred, and many powerful occult sect's powerhouses were killed. It's him. Divine Dr. Tang killed them." "What?" Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin were shocked at the same time, and incredulity was written all over their faces. How could they not know about the tragedy that happened in the occult sect 6 months ago? It was just that they had inquired about it for a long time, yet they couldn't find out the reason. It turned out that it was Divine Dr. Tang who killed them. Why did these occult sect's people provoke Tan Xiu? What's the reason? Asked Zhang Shi in a low voice. Song Donglai hesitated for a moment and said, "I don't know the specific reason, but I heard some news. 6 months ago, many families of the occult sect were summoned by cultivators to go to Kanas for a major event. But I don't know why they had a conflict with Divine Dr. Tang in Kanas. The result was tragic. Not only were a large number of occult sect's people killed, but even those cultivators were also killed. Although I was punished by my family and haven't returned home for decades, my family still sent someone to warn me that I can provoke anyone but the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiu." Zhang Shi was greatly shaken. Although she knew that Tan Xiu was very strong, she didn't expect that he would be so strong to such an extent that he could easily kill so many occult sect's people. The most important thing was that he even ruthlessly killed cultivators. He's a big tree and a big backer. Zhang Shi's thoughts changed and she immediately became excited. She had decided to follow Tan Xiu, and the stronger Tan Xiu was, the more correct her decision would be. She was a bit worried before, fearing that Tan Xiu didn't have many means to further improve her cultivation due to her old age. But now, it seemed that Tan Xiu's power was absolutely beyond her imagination. Zhang Shi shot a deep look at Song Donglai and said in a deep voice, "You didn't tell us about it, and we didn't ask about it. Divine Dr. Tang has chosen to have a meal here, so you must serve him well. We still have time, so we won't stay for long." "I will. Don't worry." Song Donglai originally wanted Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin to put in a good word for him in front of Tan Xiu, but it turned out that the other party didn't have such an intention. Although he was unhappy inside, he didn't dare to show it. After a while, as Zhang Shi and Lu Pinxin left, Song Donglai gritted his teeth and turned to the bald middle-aged man, saying, "Go to my office immediately and bring me the 2 bottles of God's nectar. Also, I still have some top-grade Dahong Pao tea leaves in my office. Immediately send the best tea-making expert to brew a pot of tea and send it over." "Understood." The bald man didn't dare to neglect and strode away. 10 minutes later. When the bald man brought manager Wang to Song Donglai, who was pacing back and forth, Song Donglai took a deep breath and took the 2 bottles of God's nectar. He let the bald man leave first and then walked to the VIP box's entrance with manager Wang and knocked on the door. "2 distinguished guests, how's the food in our Agricola? I hope the 2 of you can be magnanimous enough to forgive me if there's any neglect." Song Donglai pretended not to know Tan Xiu's identity and spoke with a smile on his face. Tan Xiu glanced at Li Chang, who stood opposite him, and said with an expressionless face, "The game is not bad. You put a lot of special ingredients in it, right?" Song Donglai's heart immediately jumped to his throat upon hearing that. He let out a hollow laugh and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Tang. Some of the ingredients are very special, but they won't have any harmful effect on the human body after being mixed by our kitchen. Don't worry." "I don't mean anything else," said Tan Xiu. "Huh? God's nectar? Don't tell me your Agricola also provides God's nectar." "No, no," said Song Donglai hurriedly. "God's nectar is a top-grade wine. How can we have such a high grade here? The main thing is that all the guests who can dine in the VIP box are our distinguished guests. I spent a lot of effort to buy these 2 bottles of God's nectar with great difficulty. Manager Wang, why are you still in a daze? Hurry up and pour some tea for Mr. Tang." "Understood." Although Manager Wang didn't understand why the big boss's attitude toward Tan Xiu took a 180-degree turn, she still respectfully poured the brewed tea into the cups and then placed them in front of the 2 men. Chapter 880. Looking at Song Donglai's flattering posture, Tan Xiu was a bit surprised inwardly. However, when he recalled that the Lu family's patriarch and old cripple personally came over, he felt relieved. Nowadays, powerful and influential big families could indeed make these small bosses pay attention to them. "Let's have a private chat, shall we?" Tan Xiu immediately said as he recalled the unusual situation in this Agricola. Song Donglai's heart thumped upon hearing it. He thought that Tan Xiu bore a grudge against him for being disrespectful to him and wanted to deal with him in private. His lips squirmed a few times and he said with a sullen face, "I was indeed in the wrong before, Mr. Tang. I shouldn't have ignored you. Please be magnanimous and spare me. I assure you that I'll treat you like an ancestor in the future." Cough, cough. Tan Xiu, who had just taken a sip of tea, choked when he heard Song Donglai's words. Putting down the teacup, he took a tissue to wipe his mouth and said with an expression of being at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh, "Your boss Song, right? I, Tan Xiu, am not a narrow-minded person. I want to talk to you alone because there's something else." Upon hearing it, Song Donglai's heart that was hanging in his throat finally felt relieved and he asked with a bit of caution, "What do you want to talk to me about, Mr. Tang?" Tan Xiu got up and looked at Li Chang, saying, "Continue eating. This God's nectar is also good, so drink it well. I'm going out to talk to Boss Song about something." "All right." Li Chang usually hated drinking, but as a salesman, he had to drink with his clients all day long. However, there was a kind of wine in this world that not only he didn't hate drinking, but he also looked forward to drinking it again one day. That's right, drinking it again. 6 months ago, he once met a big boss. Due to a chance coincidence, the big boss wanted to show off and made him drink 2 cups of it. The taste was so fragrant that it was unforgettable. This wine was none other than God's nectar. The full moon hung high in the sky, its watery moonlight sprinkling over the lake. A gentle breeze blew over, causing the surface of the lake to ripple. On the shore of the lake, Tan Xiu's tall and straight body was like a towering pine tree. His eyes flashed with a strange light, and his divine sense quickly merged into the lake. He smelled the faint scent of blood. After a long while, Tan Xiu retracted his spiritual consciousness and felt some regret in his heart. His spiritual consciousness was still too weak. At most, he could only probe the bottom of the lake a dozen meters deep. He couldn't probe the bottom of the lake beyond that. "Mr. Song." Tan Xiu finally turned his head and looked at the apprehensive Song Donglai. "Mr. Tang, you said," said Song Donglai hurriedly. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Do you know why I insisted on staying here for dinner even though I knew that all the boxes in your place are full?" He even used his connections to contact the Lu family. Song Donglai stared blankly and shook his head. "I don't know. As a matter of fact, your Green Lake Agricola's game may taste good, but it can't be said to be a delicacy. It has some fame, but it's not a thunderous one. The reason why I insisted on staying here is that I sensed a faint killing intent the moment I stepped into this place. This killing intent doesn't seem to emanate from someone, but rather, it's hidden in the world. I don't understand what you mean. Song Donglai shook his head. He was nervous. He knew that Tan Xiu was right. His Green Lake Agricola did have a hidden killing intent. It was not only because of the hidden experts brought by Ao Wei and Gong Quan, but also because of the Kruer python in the lake before him. He was perfectly aware that the Kruer python was a very powerful fierce beast. Even if it was unintentional, it would still exude a faintly discernible ferocious aura. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and lightly said, I know that every place and everyone has their own secrets. This is your territory. I shouldn't have asked. However, you have a lot of guests here, and I am one of them, so you must let me know the whole story. Saying, he took out the green book and shook it in front of Song Donglai. The moment Song Donglai's expression drastically changed, he put it away and continued, if my guess is correct, you're someone from the occult doors. Don't worry, I don't have any enmity towards the people of the strange doors, even though I have personally killed many of them. Song Donglai's lips squirmed as he asked, how did you guess it? Tan Xiu lightly said, Chimen Duanjia is something that many powerful array masters in the occult sect are proficient in. But they don't know that the best material for Chimen Duanjia is jade. There are a lot of jades stored in your Green Lake Agricola. Also, I've sensed a kind of qi in your body from many people of the strange doors. Song Donglai bitterly said, you really have a keen vision. That's right, I'm indeed someone from the occult sect, and a member of the Song family. It's just that I made some mistakes in the past and was driven out by my family, so I stayed in Chang City for decades and opened my Agricola here. Tell me, what exactly is in this lake? Tan Xiu nodded. This, Song Donglai's body trembled and the bad premonition inside his heart became more intense. The Kruer python was a fierce beast that was a scourge in the eyes of many people. However, Tan Xiu was a member of the special department in the country, so he must be very resistant to the idea of breeding fierce beasts in the city. Just in case. In case he learned about the existence of the Kruer python and wanted to get rid of it, the hard work of the three brothers for decades would be in vain. What should I do? Song Donglai had never felt so powerless before. He couldn't beat Tan Xiu, and it was likely that he wouldn't have the chance to escape. Furthermore, the Lien family already knew that the three brothers were in Chang City. Even if the three of them could escape now, the Lien family would be able to track their whereabouts through the clues. What's wrong? Tan Xiu lightly said. Is it inconvenient for you to explain, Boss Song? If it's really inconvenient, then I'll send someone to get the thing in this lake. Don't. Song Donglai blurted out. Tan Xiu raised his brows and thoughtfully said, since you don't want my people to do it, then explain it to me. Else, today's matter will be very difficult to resolve. Suddenly, his expression shifted and his voice raised a lot as he continued, of course, it's not a problem if someone else comes to explain it to me. I'll explain it to you. Ao Wei and Gong Quan appeared from a dark corner and came before Tan Xiu. They cupped their fists and said, Ao Wei of the Ao family greets Grandmaster Tang. Tan Xiu turned to look at them and slowly asked, do you know me? I've long heard of Grandmaster Tang's awe-inspiring reputation, said Ao Wei. It's my fortune to meet you today. Don't flatter me and answer my question, said Tan Xiu with a light smile. Ao Wei nodded to Song Donglai without a word. Then, he spoke to Tan Xiu, Grandmaster Tang, there's actually a Kruer python in this lake. We put it there after we came here yesterday. The three of us have been raising this blood python for dozens of years and have slowly cultivated it. Kruer python? A fierce beast? Tan Xiu suddenly understood and curiously asked, what are you raising a Kruer python for? I'm afraid only those evil cultivators would raise such a fierce beast, no? It's to arrange the Kruer python array to help us three brothers break through our current shackles, like carps leaping through the dragon gate to enter the Tao through martial arts and become cultivators like you. Ao Wei forced a wry smile. The Kruger python array. Tan Xiu was surprised. What kind of existence is it? Ao Wei was also aware of the present situation, so he didn't want to conceal it anymore and explained, the Kruger python array is an array that uses the blood essence of a Kruger python and human blood mixed with jade stones. It only has one function, and that is to instill blood to wash the Ho Tian essence in our bodies, causing the power inside our bodies to undergo a qualitative change. We've read about this array in an ancient book. Tan Xiu suddenly understood, but he still frowned and said, I understand that it requires the blood essence of a Kruger python, but what's the situation with it requiring human blood? 18 living people as a sacrifice, said Ao Wei. Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed and he shouted in a deep voice, do you know what you're talking about? Chapter 881. Although Tan Xiu spoke bluntly to the three of them, he appreciated them very much. They were able to stake everything on one throw to fight for the opportunity in cultivation. Tan Xiu seemed to see the magnificent feat of hundreds of millions of living beings in the immortal world fighting against the heaven, the earth, and the people. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu took a car and left Green Lake Agricola, but he told Mo to stay nearby and closely monitor the situation here. After returning to the Chang City Hotel with Li Chang, Tan Xiu found that Shuiyu had returned. Have you arranged everything? Tan Xiu took off his coat and saw that Shuiyu had taken a bath and was sitting on the sofa in pajamas, reading a book. He immediately asked with a smile. Shuiyu put down the book and nodded, everything has been arranged. Besides, I got a call from that man surnamed Huang. He invited me to the coffee shop on the first floor of the hotel. That guy is really impatient. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. Did you agree? Chuckling, Shuiyu said, if I didn't agree, how could I accompany you to put on this show? But do you really plan to use that Li Chang? That guy is indeed a talent. It's not a bad thing if I can recruit him for my own use, said Tan Xiu. However, he has something on his mind. He wanted to say something to me many times tonight, but he didn't say anything in the end. He has a patient at home, said Shuiyu with a smile. You divined again? Asked Tan Xiu curiously. No. I found it through divination before. Shuiyu shook her head. He seems to be short of money now, so he should be raising money for his family's medical treatment. Also, I found something interesting. In fact, every time he betrayed his previous company, he would make the previous company's boss suffer miserably. On the one hand, he resented those company's bosses, but on the other hand, he had no choice. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and suddenly said, let He Xiong and Xue Sha deal with that boss Huang. Come with me, we'll go to Li Chang's house to have a look. All right. Shuiyu gently nodded. 10:00 in the evening. A bit drunk, Li Chang returned to his home in the Qingye neighborhood. Pushing open the bedroom door, he saw his wife, Luo Yu, leaning against the bedside lamp, staring blankly into space. He squeezed out a smile, reached out to untie his tie, and said, It's so late, why aren't you resting yet? Luo Yu came back to her senses and softly said, If you don't come back, I won't be able to sleep. Li Chang was just about to sit on the bed when he suddenly realized the smell of alcohol on his body. He immediately said, I accompanied a client to drink some wine tonight, so I have the smell of alcohol on me. I'm going to take a shower first. I'll be right back. Luo Yu nodded slightly and looked at her husband's back as he walked into the bathroom. She knew that she had been a burden to her husband all these years. Sometimes, she even wanted to commit suicide so that her husband could live more easily in the future. But every time she wanted to take action, she couldn't bear to leave. It wasn't that she was afraid of death, but she couldn't bear to leave her beloved husband alone in this world. Sigh, Luo Yu sighed faintly and looked up at the ceiling, trying her best not to let the tears in her eyes fall. Very soon, Li Chang finished washing up. When he got into the bed in his pajamas, he gently hugged Luo Yu and said, I'm afraid I'll be very busy in the next 2 days. But as long as it's successful, not only will I be able to collect enough money for your surgery, but I can also earn money for your postoperative recuperation. If you feel bored, I'll call my younger sister and ask her to take a leave to accompany you. Don't disturb Xinjie, said Luo Yu hurriedly. She just finished her freshman year this year and found a temporary job in Shanghai during the summer vacation. Let her exercise well. You've been treating my illness all these years, and Xinjie's living expenses are not enough. I really don't want to burden her anymore. The reason why Xinjie wants to stay in Shanghai to work is mainly to earn more money, said Li Chang with a smile. She doesn't have to pay the tuition fee for her sophomore year. But I just said that I can earn some money in the next few days, and I can solve most of the problems at hand within half a month. Therefore, she doesn't need to earn money outside. She just needs to come back to accompany you and take care of you. That's enough. Did you get the business deal you mentioned? Asked Luo Yu curiously. Not only that, but the things that happened to me in the past 2 days will be inconceivable in the eyes of many people. Li Chang nodded. Forget it. I won't tell you the specifics. But you must believe that we'll be able to live a good life soon. I believe you. Luo Yu smiled faintly. Shortly after, the husband and wife chatted for a while. Just as they were about to rest, the doorbell outside suddenly rang. Li Chang, who was a bit sleepy, frowned and muttered, "Who's coming so late?" "Let's go and have a look," said Luo Yu softly. After a while, Li Chang opened the door and looked at Tan Xiao and Shuiyu outside. An incredulous look appeared on his face as he asked in surprise, "Brother Tang, sister-in-law, why are you here?" Tan Xiao strode into the door and lightly smiled. "Did I disturb your rest and family by coming here so late?" No. I'm just a bit curious. How did you know where my house is?" Li Chang quickly shook his head. "Is it difficult to find someone's address?" Tan Xiao asked with a smile. Recalling Tan Xiao's identity, Li Chang immediately let out a hollow laugh and said, "That's true. It's not difficult at all." "All right, I'll cut the crap with you," said Tan Xiao. "If my guess is correct, you should have a patient in your family, right?" You also heard a lot of people calling me Divine Dr. Tang. This time, I came here to help you solve your worries. Li Chang was shaken inwardly and hurriedly said, "Brother Tang, I do have a patient in my family. It's my wife who has a heart disease and slight kidney failure. However, I signed the contract 2 days ago. After I get the commission, I'll be able to raise enough money for my wife's operation." "What?" Tan Xiao asked with a faint smile. "You don't believe me?" Li Chang let out a hollow laugh after his thoughts were seen through. "How could I? You're the famous young divine doctor. But can Chinese medicine cure a heart disease?" "Whether it can be cured or not, we'll know after trying it," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "Prepare yourself. If your wife hasn't slept yet, you can treat her later." Li Chang hesitated and said, "Brother Tang, the hospital has given me a professional treatment plan." Tan Xiao interrupted him and said, "I can leave immediately if you don't believe me." "Of course, if you let me try it, it won't harm your wife even if I can't cure her." Upon hearing it, Li Chang immediately felt relieved and hurriedly said, "Brother Tang, sister-in-law, you two take a seat first. I'll call my wife out." Immediately, Li Chang quickly walked into the bedroom. "I heard it. Who exactly is this young divine doctor?" asked Luo Yu softly. "He's the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, Tan Xiao," said Li Chang in a low voice. "He's also a famous and powerful Chinese medicine practitioner in the country. Honey, he just said that even if he can't cure your heart disease, it won't harm you. How about we give it a try?" Luo Yu nodded and said, "I've heard of him. He's a very powerful young divine doctor. Since you think it's okay, then let's give it a try." Outside in the living room, Tan Xiao could clearly hear Li Chang and Luo Yu's conversation. After they came out, Tan Xiu observed Luo Yu's complexion and nodded. Yin and yang deficiency, kidney function decline. I'll check your pulse. All right. Luo Yu sat in front of Tan Xiu and stretched out her wrist. Quickly. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and took out a box of silver needles from his interspatial ring. He lightly smiled and said, "It's a very common heart disease. It's not difficult for me." "That's right, Li Chang. Go get a basin of hot water. We'll need it later." "All right." Upon hearing it, Li Chang immediately rushed to the kitchen. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he whispered with a smile, "Take off your pajamas quickly. I need to take the stent out of your heart. Also, there may be some pain later, but you must endure it." "What? You want to take the stent out of my heart?" This. Dumbfounded, Luo Yu looked at Tan Xiu and asked with a dumbfounded expression. Tan Xiu glanced at the kitchen door and immediately knocked Luo Yu out. With Shui Yu's help, he took off Luo Yu's pajamas and moved lightning fast, constantly inserting silver needles into the major acupoints around Luo Yu's heart. Afterward, he took out a sharp scalpel. "What are you doing?" A few minutes later, when Li Chang came out of the kitchen with half a basin of hot water, the scene he saw made him so angry that he dashed over and roared. "Shut up if you don't want anything to happen to your wife," shouted Tan Xiu. Li Chang put the hot water on the floor and watched Tan Xiu's hands moving the scalpel smoothly like moving clouds and flowing water. Anger still flashed in his eyes, but he restrained it. "Divine Dr. Tang, I don't care if you're a real divine doctor or a fake one. I just want you to remember that if anything happens to my wife, I'll drag you down with me even if I have to die." "You're too noisy." Tan Xiu snorted coldly. As the scalpel's tip picked out the stent in Luo Yu's heart, a steady stream of primal chaos force was quickly injected into it. On the one hand, it helped to stop the bleeding, while on the other hand, it quickly nourished and repaired her heart. Time fleeted by. More than 20 minutes later, Tan Xiu stopped injecting primal chaos force. He carefully took out the needle and thread and began to suture the wound. His hands were very steady, and although the density of the needle and thread was not high, the effect was very remarkable. After suturing, Tan Xiu washed his hands in the basin of warm water. He then looked at Li Chang and said, "There are a total of 12 silver needles around your wife's heart. Keep in mind that you must not pull them out within 24 hours. I'll come back here 24 hours later, and you'll know whether my treatment is effective or not." Li Chang really wanted to go all out against Tan Xiu. Without his permission, Tan Xiu unexpectedly made the decision to operate on his wife, and even used such a shallow method. However, since things had come to this, he could only accept it and pray to God that his wife would be safe and sound. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.